basic courtesy when you're having an interview with somebody. You don't randomly interject with comments from your chat because they gave you $2.
Is that?
Is it?
Well, hold on. This one was $50, so. I mean, that's.
Can we do the $50 one?
There's
No.
there's a limit.
I thought that was nice of you, Sunday. I do appreciate it. That was very honest.
Adam
like
reading super chats is his not so subtle way of trying to get us to move to a different topic, which he seems to be wanting.
He really wants to for some reason. He must have something really interesting in mind.
No, I mean not really, but I
what
just
you-
how
you have
much
to
can
go
we talk
soon?
about the
What time
Neely stuff? Yeah, he's got.
Well, we can talk about it quite a bit. I have the footage right on screen, so we can watch exactly how long he holds him in a carotid chokehold for while the man is limp. Do you want to see?
He's got 30 minutes more, Sitch. If he's going on Wick's panel in 30 minutes,
I'm not. I think I'm prioritizing this one.
You can invite Wick on if you want to invite Wick on here. You can.
No,
Wick's a great guy.
Wick's got a panel to run. I was a last
don't you
minute
like
addition at best. Yes.
Why don't you
Okay,
like
I thought okay, good, cool. Stick around.
So here, watch. We're gonna observe on stream. Okay.
Yeah, he holds them. It looks like he holds them for 30 seconds after he stops.
That's a long hold after he stops moving. But the thing is, after he's pretended to go limp and then
You say he's
fought
pretended
back,
to go limp, but I don't think he's pretended to go limp because he died afterwards. Why
thought
are
he
you
was-
insisting? Why are you insisting he's pretended to go limp? Where's this coming from?
Well, no, because so if the guy's limp, right, he stops moving, and then he starts moving violently, okay, and then
He's
they restrain
faking
him,
you
and
out.
then he stops moving.
Watch how he's moving though.
Sunday, you have to understand this. It's so basic. Anyone can understand this.
Look how weak
You're
his
trying
arms
to-
are.
You're trying to subdue the person. If they pretend to be subdued and then fight back,
Adam.
you then have no assurance that when they stop moving again, that they're really going to be subdued. Do you
Right.
understand that?
Adam, you instigating a situation in which somebody is fighting back because you grab them around the throat is
That is
not
irrelevant.
does not give you carte blanche to then hold on to him into perpetuity.
Neely
insofar as
instigated the
you
situation.
Feel threatened.
Neely instigated the situation with his verbal threat.
With
Yes.
his verbal threat.
Yes.
We're on board with the whole words are violence thing now. That's where we're going.
Well, if they're
No,
violent
wait,
words,
wait.
if they're I'm going to
They're
kill
violent
you,
words. They're violent words.
Wait,
okay.
you wait. I don't know why you're making this argument. Are you saying that no matter what he said, he could have said anything in the entire history of existence, and that wouldn't justify you trying to restrain him?
No,
Okay, then why did you make that argument?
because he didn't say the kind of thing that would.
No.
precipitate that kind
Then
of
why'd you make
action.
the words or violence argument? That's a BS argument. Come on.
Well, it's a BS argument for you.
Well, no, because
this
it's a
spells
BS
whole
argument for
lot of
you.
problems
Wait, it's a BS argument for
you.
you. It's a BS argument for you because you yourself said he could say something that justified the use of force.
I agree. Except could say something that justifies these.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we could stick to the real
Threats-
argument.
threats of violence.
For example, an employer refusing to use the proper pronouns of an employee.
You think that's
Oh, that's
justifiable
violence?
force in that
in a
situation?
state,
that's violence?
in a state in which that is actually the law that you're actually required to
Mm-hmm.
respect these. I think it is perfectly appropriate for the force.
maybe
of the
he
state,
misgendered
for
Daniel
the force of
Penny.
the state to penalize the person for doing so.
Right, but okay, so you don't think the
That's
employee should be able
violence.
to put them in a chokehold when they don't use their
But
proper
well,
pronouns,
hang
do you?
on. If that person refuses to pay a fine, or refuses to go to court, or refuses to go to prison, that person will
Right.
be forced to by somebody who is entitled by law, if they
Yeah, by the
resist
state,
enough,
yes.
to kill
Right.
them.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
The state will, yes.
Okay. I don't understand what that has anything to do with what we're talking about.
Oh, you're cool with that, though. Is where I'm going with this.
Am I cool with the state using power,
Yeah.
physical force to enforce their laws? Yes,
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. Yeah.
Really, even against people who are being whose free speech is being limited because they are not using the proper pronouns of.
Well,
an
I would
employee.
disagree with that law, obviously, but you have to follow the law,
Oh.
right? Unless you get it changed. Like if you want to protest the law, try to get it changed, then you can do that. But you still have to it's the thing like with the civil rights movement when they're protesting like, the unjust laws, they still end up going to jail, but it's part of the protest.
By the way,
Read
we're
Grendel's
47 seconds in, so it continues.
Would you want me to read it?
Grendel Vivat. It's relevant and it's
Look how hard he is holding his neck.
Grendel Vat for $50 says New York is a minority jurisdiction which imposes duty to retreat before use of deadly force. However, case law has caveats that person must have actual knowledge of ability to retreat safely. Here, passengers were trapped in a moving car with sealed doors.
Adam.
Yeah.
Adam.
And
point.
Daniel
Adam.
Penny didn't have a way to retreat. He's literally under the guy.
No one on
Adam.
the train
Oh,
specifically.
Penny had no. Adam, you were suggesting earlier, rather hilariously, that they were waiting for Penny to tap out. But it was you who introduced, even before I put the footage on the screen, that he had been held down arms and legs by 3 people. How is he supposed to tap out precisely? Wouldn't that count as struggling by your lights?
Well,
no,
the people
you can tap out.
grabbed
What do you
his-
mean? Don't you don't know the universal sign for tapping out? You tap
can't.
your
You
phone.
can't. What do you tap out with?
You yell uncle.
Or you
Well,
say
you
I
can't
tap
yell
out.
uncle if your throat's being constricted. What do you tap out with?
Well, that's true. He should have. You know what? I agree. The one guy, the black guy that was
Neely
holding his
had
arm down,
precisely
he
one-
should have not have held his arm down
Neely-
so that he could have tapped
Neely
out.
had
I agree with
precisely,
that. You're
Neely
right.
had precisely one action that he could do that would satisfy the both of you, judging by what you said here, and that is
Holding
to die quietly,
No, holding
Yeah, he
still.
could have just held
which
still.
would make him what? He was being strangled.
He wasn't
die.
being strangled the entire time. Obviously, he
Yes.
would have died long ago.
Well, he was clearly because he was.
no.
rendered,
When he when no
no, because he was rendered limp.
when
by the
Penny's on
initial
his
act.
back and Penny's on his back and he's holding Neely, he's obviously not dying at that moment.
What do you mean he's obviously not dying at that moment?
He's
this
no,
is
the moment
this is
which
this is
the
like
moment
near
where
the
he
end of the
passes
altercation.
because the moment when he passes out is once they roll over and Penny's on his side and Neely's on his side. That's when he passes out. When he's on his back, he's not passed out.
Yes, he is passed out when he's on his back. This is the end of the altercation.
No. He's
Yes,
on
it
his
says
no. Why
yes.
do you say? What are you basing that off of?
The footage.
In the footage, that's when he's moving and his eyes even open up at that point.
I think everyone knows our positions. We could probably move on. So.
I guess we could, but
We'll see. We'll see what
Anyway.
happens.
Also,
I guess we'll
he's-
see what
he's-
happens. Maybe additional evidence will come on. It'll change someone's mind, but I doubt anyone's mind will be changed in this situation. So.
My mind will be changed. if
Look,
the,
hang on. He's limp. 2 minutes and 48 seconds left. He's not even squirming anymore.
He's
Yeah,
not
that's the
holding for
fake
2
out.
minutes and 40
That's not the
seconds.
fake out. That's the end.
Okay.
That's why I said he holds him for about 40 seconds after he stops moving, and then he lets go when the guy
Yeah.
talks to him. Yeah.
They
So you just let
hold him.
go.
They hold him long enough to make sure he's not
Guys.
faking it, right?
Right.
Come on. Come
Look,
on.
he's faked. He's faked it twice. They're going
If
to
you're- wait,
hold
wait,
him
wait,
long
let me ask-
enough to make sure
If
he's
you're
not
holding
faking
someone, yeah, if you're holding someone, President Sunday, and they fake you out, or they're struggling, not struggling, struggling, not struggling, how do you know when it's like, oh, they're actually just gonna, I'm actually like they've actually passed out? How do you know that?
That's a good question. I don't know. This is one of the
Well,
reasons
that's
why
kind
you
of the
don't
problem.
recklessly
it? You know,
jump
because they
somebody.
stop moving.
No,
and
this
you
is
wasn't
one of
let
the
out-
random.
reasons. This is one of the reasons why you don't recklessly assault somebody in public. You don't grab somebody around the throat.
Well, this
you
is one of the
shouldn't
reasons why you
recklessly
don't
throw them into a
threaten a whole carload of people.
He
You
didn't
shouldn't
threaten
recklessly
a whole
threaten
carload of
people.
Play stupid
Wait,
games,
yes,
win
he did.
stupid
What are you
prizes.
talking about?
Really?
Yes, he
Fuck
did.
around,
he,
find
he
out.
presented a reasonable imminent threat to the entire car of people, such that choking him out was the
Yes.
only option. He said he had a bomb. He said he had
No,
a
he
gun.
said
he said he had a knife. Was he armed with
No.
anything?
What was the you
Choking
read
him out
Adam?
was the most reasonable
No,
option.
no, wait. He said, I don't care if I go to prison. I don't care if I have to
He
hurt
said,
someone.
"I want food.
close
I'm
the
not
chat
taking no for an answer. I'll hurt anyone on this train. I'm ready to go back to jail."
Yeah,
Those are
that's a so directly a threat.
that is a threat.
How are we pretending that's not a threat?
Hey Adam,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
What's
hurt
up?
I'm gonna hurt anyone in this stream. I'm so hungry. I don't care if I go back to jail.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't
Do
believe
you know?
you.
Do you, wait. Do you know what?
Really?
Do you know what context is?
Yeah, you're not in the room, so it's obvious.
Yeah, I don't
that threat
understand
is
why you're
empty.
bringing.
Well,
forward this
among
argument.
other things, the only people present are you and I. So at the very least, you would
we're not.
have, you
We're
would
not
have
sharing a
recourse.
physical space.
At the very least, you would have. Well, it's still a threat, no?
No. Is it? Wait. You know, if someone is like 100 yards away from you and they're like, "Hey, I'm gonna come punch you," you know that's very different than someone who's standing right next
I'd
to you
say-
and they look at you very menacingly and they're like, "I'm gonna fucking kill you."
Really?
I'd say
These
you
are
have a
but,
very
but,
duty to
different
that's,
situations.
but
retreat.
hang on a sec. If that's indeed what he did.
Wait,
then
no.
why would Neely become a
No.
public- Why would
No.
Penny
You
become
can't. You
public?
can't. Wait. You
Why would
can't
Penny
make
become
general
public?
arguments, and then when I make a general argument, you go back to the specifics. Okay, you're making general arguments about principles, and then when I refute them, you bring it back to the specific to try to say, "But that's
What
not
are you
what
referring
happened." Okay, you keep saying we're saying, oh, he said these words that are threatening. And then your response to this is, I'm going to say, your response to that is to say, I'm going to say similar words to you guys on stream. Does that justify using force against me? And we're saying no, because the context of the situation is entirely different. But you're not agreeing to that. Okay?
I'll tell you exactly why you're okay with Neely being strangled to death in the train. And that's because he looked homeless. It's the only reason.
Wait. You've changed the subject. You've changed the subject because you're not admitting that what you're doing here is completely fallacious.
You're being completely incoherent.
No.
Completely incoherent.
So President Sunday, it's funny. You're doing the thing where when you're being wrong, you just try to use like ad homs and try to get the conversation changed to something else.
I'm probably going to have to defer to you just based on your first
What was the point? What was the point of you, Sunday?
What it feels like to lose oxygen to your brain.
Sunday, what was the point of you when we were talking about whether his words were threatening?
Every time I wake up.
What you can stop interrupting because I know you don't want me to make an argument because you're afraid of the argument. Okay.
I am.
What was the point? That when we were talking about whether the words
don't wait,
what were the he's terrified.
He's
terrified of the
Why do you
argument.
keep doing that?
Come
on, just let him make his
argument.
argument.
You ready? Can we actually have the argument put forward?
In 1 second, I've got some super chats to read. Sorry, go on.
Well, that's pretty funny. I'll give you that one. Okay, what is the point if we're talking about whether Neely said something that was threatening or not for you to then say, well, I'm saying threatening words to you over Zoom in a non-threatening way? What's the point of putting forward that argument?
Because you're using that to give carte blanche to him continuing to hold him down for an additional 15
minutes.
You're the one bridging these two things.
We're not. We went back to you're doing the thing. You're doing the thing I talked about in the beginning. You keep jumping to different arguments. You went back to the argument that he should have never done it in the first place, and that's what we were addressing. Now you're saying, well, even if he'd done it, he shouldn't have done it for 10 minutes. You keep changing the position.
Just one at a time, okay?
Because the trespassing on one is a different crime from the trespassing on the other. So him instigating it makes him the instigator of assaulting somebody on a train. Him holding him down makes him a killer.
I understand that. So right now we're focused on the instigation aspect of it. Okay.
Well,
so you don't need to bring up the length of time.
We're concerned with all of it because
we're just talking.
Well, no,
we're just talking about the instigation part.
Well, yeah, I know, but this becomes a problem for you because you have to leap back in order to justify him continuing to hold him by reference to his threatening behavior prior to being assaulted. Now, if his behavior prior to being assaulted is not just cause for him being
obviously, then nothing is just cause. Obviously, right?
Well, no,
right.
clearly not. For example, no, clearly not. For example, if he had a gun and he was reaching for a gun, it'd be a different story. If he was waving around a knife, it'd be a different story. If he had already physically attacked someone, it would be a different story. But he didn't. As it stands, this is the record. Man was walking around on a train, yelling out threatening statements to nobody in particular. Maybe to everyone, maybe to the whole world, but to no one in particular. Penny in particular decided to stand up, creep up behind him, grab him around the throat, and then persisted to hold him until he was dead.
I thought you said in the beginning of this conversation that even if Neely punched someone, you don't think it would have been justified.
It would not have been justified to hold him for as long as he did.
Okay. But it would have been justified to instigate the action.
Well, he wouldn't be instigating the action. He'd be responding to an action.
Okay. So that's why we're focused on the threatening part of the words.
No, you're focusing on the threatening part of the words because it's the only recourse you have to justify him holding a person down for upwards of 5 minutes.
You're saying that like it's a dunk. Of course, that's the whole point.
No, I'm not saying
whether
it was
whether it was justified for Penny to try to restrain him or not. So obviously that hinges entirely on the actions of Neely before and what he said.
Well, no, because there's a difference between restraining and then executing the person, which is what happened once after the person was limp. He continued to
we're just talking
cut
about
off blood supply to his brain.
We're just talking about the instigation part of this.
Well, now suddenly you're jumping.
Said, if the instigation part isn't justified, then nothing is justified, right?
Now you're jumping.
I'm not jumping. This is what
you're
jumping.
You're jumping like Stitch when he launches from the volcano onto Dr. Jumba's spacecraft.
Is that really his name?
Dr. Jumba, yeah.
Or did you just make that up?
No, it's called Dr. Ham, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because he looks like a pig.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have to talk about the instigation part again, because if, as you said, and as I said, and we all agree, if it wasn't justified in the beginning, then no action, regardless of what it is justified afterwards. This is kind of what came up with the
Bingo
situation.
Well, not every action is justified afterwards.
No, I understand it. I said no justification would be no action would be justified afterwards.
Well, not no action, just not no. There's a difference between saying he can't strangle him for 5 minutes. And
I'm not.
saying
I
he
didn't
can't
say
do
that. I
anything.
didn't say that. I said I'd say that no action whatsoever would have been justified if he wasn't justified to even do anything based on what the initial thing that Neely Setter did.
No, I think if Penny had stood up and told him to back down, and if he had refused to do so, and then he had been aggressive towards Penny in particular, he would be justified in tackling him.
Okay, no action of restraint. Okay.
No sneaking up
you
on
wanna use
someone.
that
No
word.
sneaking up on someone who has not been physically violent and choking
Right.
them. Yes,
Right. Okay. So
that
you're
is
standing
escalating
by,
the situation.
Right. So you're standing by the statement that you don't think that what Neely said, which was Adam,
Yes.
you have the call.
Let me go back here.
Go back to your
I
tab.
want food. I'm not taking no for an answer. I'll hurt anyone on this motherfucking train. I'm ready to go back to jail, motherfuckers.
Yeah. That's not justification for going up behind him and strangling him to death. No.
Okay.
Or
No,
for
wait,
strangling him
well,
at all. Or
well,
for strangling him
don't-
at all.
Okay. You don't think
Or
that's
for taking
restraining
a, or
of
for
him-
taking a
Right.
swing at him, or for
you don't
restraining him.
think any sort of physical force is justified from those words?
Not from those words, no.
Okay. Well, that's
If he had
where
then
our
said,
core
"I have a
disagreement
gun"
lies.
or "I have a bomb," different story. But
Okay,
at that
sure, I
juncture,
understand.
yeah, I'm sorry, no.
I understand. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's just where the core disagreement lies, because I think that those words are threatening enough that would allow someone to.
I think the
try to
core
restrain them.
disagreement lies in the first two words of that last sentence.
What?
Don't worry about it.
Motherfucker? Oh. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I don't care if they're homeless or not. So, like, if anyone says those words,
Because they're black,
just-
isn't it?
It is, yes.
No,
True.
obviously not. Anyway, do you want to? Are there any more super chats that are relevant? You got any super chats that are relevant to this? Do you have any?
No, I don't.
You're-
I don't. I'll read my super chat in between stuff. What did you want to
If you
talk about
read-
next?
if
Adam?
you
You
read
were
'em-
really
if you-
you were
Look,
really
if you
eager to
read
get
'em
off
now,
this
you
topic.
might get
I'm
some more
curious.
super chats.
No. That's
True.
President Sunday.
my audience subscribes for quality, not for responsiveness.
Well, he's a socialist, so he doesn't want money. So.
Exactly. True. Yes, indeed. I'm actually not a socialist, but I'm trying.
Well, whatever. Leftists, they're all the same, right?
Well, Sitch was interested in perhaps talking about your debate with Lav, I think.
About gender. Yes.
And I was interested just in a general question about, like, what's the goal of your channel? Like, do you consider yourself a political activist, or
Are you asking me?
just basic questions we usually ask? I don't think we got to ask these questions first time you came on.
I don't think I would characterize myself as a political activist. Like I do political advocacy, I guess, of a sort. But like
Okay.
fundamentally, this is not distinct from my job. I'm not going out and taking part in like direct action or things of that sort. I wouldn't characterize myself as an activist. No.
What do you mean by not distinct from your job? Is streaming your job? I don't really know.
Well, the channel's my job. It's video essays and streaming. Yeah.
Okay. So what is the goal of the channel? Like, what do you want to accomplish?
Nothing in particular. I guess generally, I try to produce educational material and deploy my specific education towards getting people interested in certain types of material. Trying to do like decent analysis of things. It's fairly general. I wouldn't say there's any one in particular.
And I noticed you have a lot of videos that seem to have a philosophical bent. Is that where your study is?
Well, my area is political science, but I do go into philosophy sometimes in my videos as well.
Do you separate? What's the difference between political philosophy and political science?
Well, historically, there isn't a distinction. Some of the earliest philosophical writings we have are specifically engaged with what we would call political philosophy or political science today. The critical difference would be is that political science in present day is a theoretical discourse that presumes political communities as a real thing that merit research, and I don't think a philosophical approach necessarily insists that categories like the political or states or things like that are real entities that are actually amenable to philosophical analysis specifically. Does that make sense? That was a very
I'm wondering,
convoluted way of
because
saying that.
it sounds like you're more towards a sociological understanding of politics, maybe more of an empiricist bent than a.
What do you mean when you say?
bent.
Just out of curiosity, I'm not trying to like be pedantic here, but when you say more of a sociological analysis, what do you mean by that? Like, what are you trying to specify?
like you would instead of engaging in how politics works through a rationalist sort of philosophical perspective where you're just kind of thinking about how these things are structured, you would actually do some sort of empirical studies. You would basically put forward some kind of some sort of social science hypothesis that, you know, this is why people are voting this way or that way, or why they have certain political inclinations, and then you develop some sort of experiment to prove that. Where like a political philosophy person might not do that. They might look at, you know, philosophers of old and say, this is the way certain philosophers thought about politics, and I think these particular philosophers are correct and these particular philosophers are wrong.
Well, I think
that's the distinction that I would make.
Well, I don't think either would necessarily like eschew either approach. I don't think anybody treats any, I mean, they shouldn't, at least any political scientist or philosopher worth anything will not treat sort of like the great books of political science as inerrant. In fact, each of them are responsive to each other and criticizing each other.
I mean, like, I'm sure you're familiar with Machiavelli. Machiavelli is a political philosopher, but we talk a lot about.
I'm not sure I would call him a political philosopher. He's a political thinker, definitely a political theorist. Even I wouldn't call him a philosopher.
Okay.
No, I think philosophy as a category sort of presumes like some kind of sort of ceiling of truth that governs the state of things. I think one of the things that characterizes Machiavelli is the complete disavowal of any kind of fixed point that provides sort of certainty for any kind of truth statement. Like that's the whole nature of his thing. The whole idea of courting fortuna is the idea that you don't actually abide by any specific attitude or attach yourself to any particular thing. You need to be able to read the situation and to expertly be disloyal or expertly loyal to things as the situation demands.
I understand Machiavelli, but I was just using Machiavelli as an example. Like, we talk a lot about selectorate theory on the show, which selectorate theory would be in the realm of social science, and the selectorate theory kind of proves Machiavelli right. Like, Machiavelli had a philosophy of politics that nobody actually proved through doing some sort of empirical research. These social scientists came along and they started looking at the numbers, and when you look at the numbers and find out this is why certain people are participating in certain behavior politically, and you can prove that empirically, then you can pick which of the philosophers from history actually was closest to a theory of politics that was correct.
I'm not 100% sure I followed that, but I think I think I disagree with your characterization of sociologists. So what sociology is going to do is it's going, like, beginning with people like Max Weber, it's going to start to understand things like states and political entities and things like that. By reference to sociological processes, sorry, the pollen's getting to me. By reference to sociological processes that crystallize these in the world. So, for example, when Weber is talking...
What do you mean by crystallize these in the world? Because you're talking
because
about
they might,
empiricism,
for example,
right?
Sorry?
You're talking about empirical study. When you're talking about crystallizing them in the world, you're talking about objective reality.
Well, not exactly. So empirical study will give you like data concerning, how many people engage in this behavior, how many people this category engage in this behavior, things like that. Yeah. But then you might say, well, within a given territory. And so the question becomes like, well, what gives rise to this territory? Why are we identifying, for example, the state with the territory? Why are we identifying like regions as being coherent entities and things like that? These are going to be crystallized, quote unquote. They're not like literally there. There aren't like walls around different states separating them from each other. These are going to emerge as a consequence of people's behavior. They're going to crystallize as quote unquote real because people behave in such a manner as they may as well be walls, or they may as well be something, things like that.
Well, once they behave in any sort of manner, you can study it empirically because it becomes reality. Like they did that behavior.
Sure, yeah.
Where, before the behavior takes place, it's all kind of subjective.
Yeah, but the point I'm getting at, though, is that, like, it's not that someone like Max Weber is more empirical than somebody like Machiavelli or vice versa. They're just taking a different approach to the different sort of political categories that a lot of us take for granted, and they're explaining them not by reference to, like, one of the things that Machiavelli does in a similar vein is he criticizes older approaches to politics that treat the community and proper ruling and things like that as being downstream from some notion of societal health, of virtue, things like that. Machiavelli counters people like Aristotelians and so on and so forth, and Thomists, and says that, well, actually, no. All states are either principalities or republics, and they are either inherited or they are gained by force and things like that. And there is no like virtue appropriate, constantly appropriate to a ruler or to a citizen, except what the situation demands. So what you need isn't virtue. What you need is what he calls virtu, which is basically the skillful ability to respond to the situation, to recognize when it's appropriate to lie, when it's appropriate to tell the truth, when it's appropriate to be loyal, when it's appropriate to betray, things like that.
Right. Machiavelli does, obviously. Yes. Yeah. Do you know selector theory? Because all that totally plays into selector theory.
I haven't looked into it.
Okay, interesting. So I was interested in your debate with Lav about, I guess you were talking about sex and gender, and it seemed like there's a game that's going on here where you're trying to separate what is a social construct and what is a biological construct. It seemed like most of the debate that was a back and forth.
I wouldn't separate the two. So it's not that there isn't stuff in the world or things in the world that are not downstream from human discourse, because of course human beings emerge from a pre-discursive environment in that sense. Like we evolve really without people like having like social understandings of these concepts. However, once you have an organism and a society of people who are like identifying things in the world and having a consensus, this is this organ, this is this organ, this does this does this. At that point, even the categories themselves, even if they directly correspond to a solid thing in the world prior to that discourse, that is still socially constructed. Like the understanding is socially constructed. It's downstream from our experience and from our communication with each other.
Mm-hmm. So there's no separation between social constructs and biological constructs.
Not from our vantage point. So you have to think like we're post epistemic turn here. So when we're talking about stuff in the world, when I'm talking about stuff that pre-exists human discourse, I'm actually being a little bit pretentious because I don't have access to that. I can't see that. I don't have like the eye of God. I can't say, oh, this is.
But isn't science the eye of God though? Obviously, because you're taking measurements that are outside of your human perception.
Well, what's measuring?
Measuring, distance, whatever.
Well, no, but what is measure? Not what is the concept of measuring. What is doing the measuring? What is reading? What is setting the scales? What is reading the results? What is picking what to measure?
We cannot see how many electrons are in a hydrogen atom.
This is true.
We learn this through inference, but I'm
well, not just through inference.
Objective reality is there is one electron in a hydrogen atom.
Well, not just through inference though, also through socially agreed upon symbols that represent things that cannot be seen by the human eye and are agreed upon nonetheless to represent.
Right. Yeah. You want to get into it?
Here's the issue that I have with this is that like if I were to say, what is business clothing, right? Say, it's wearing a suit or something. And we'd agree, I assume we'd all agree that that's a social construct that's entirely based on something that's entirely created by humans socially. There's nothing biological about, suits and ties and dresses and all that stuff. But if we said something like, because this came up in your conversation with Lav.
Well, that was the essence of the conversation with Lav. I know we were going to this.
You made kind of a joke about like, there's no such thing as mammals. But if we say, mammals are based on, having breast tissue and, lactating and things of that nature and being warm-blooded and all this other stuff.
Then I looked at the platypus. I'm like,
right, and there's an exception, right? But if they say, generally this is the case, or generally, whatever biological category you want,
So it's a category that's socially agreed upon, and it admits of exceptions.
Let's just let him finish.
So my point is that
I'm just going back and forth. It's all right.
So I'm just saying that the point is that I think we should acknowledge that there are categories that are based on things like business clothing, which entirely is created by humans, and there are categories which, even though the category itself, what we choose to put into the category is created by humans, we're basing that criteria on something that exists in nature, whether it's biological.
There's an excellent article on how Christopher Columbus discovered the clitoris, and I am not even joking. It's not the same Christopher Columbus, but it's funny. So, a guy called Christopher Columbus, I can't remember what he was exactly. He was working with female anatomy, it stands to reason. He determined the distinction between the clitoris and surrounding biological tissue. He identified a function, and he partitioned it on a diagram of the human body from surrounding tissue that he identified as having a separate function. This is the sort of thing that I'm talking about.
But that doesn't make the
I don't.
clitoris
Wait,
a
wait,
social
wait, wait, wait. What does it have
construct.
to do with what I just said? I don't understand the connection.
Well, because once again, to return to the lab conversation, we had the categories of male and female in advance.
Wait,
of
no, just
understanding
use
the
the
actual-
use the categories I use. Business clothing versus sex or a mammal or something, right?
Well, I mean, these aren't actually distinct, though, right? To go back again to what we were
You don't
talking
think
about
there's a
with,
difference? at
well,
all?
I was about to explain. So to go back
Okay.
to the point I was making about the difference between, for example, sociologists and political theorists and philosophers, these are describing crystallizations of social phenomena. These are still real. They're also redescribing, by the way, things that were taken as simply given parts of human life. So, for example, Aristotle thought the polis was to human beings as the beehive was to the bee, as an essential part of its life cycle. He was incorrect, obviously. Like similarly, like our categorizations of things into these strict demarcations are based on qualities that we have picked out. Going right back to the characterization of bats in the Old Testament as birds, right?
Yeah, okay, I understand all of this. This
Yeah.
is not what I'm saying. This is not what I'm getting at. I'm saying is that I assume you understand the difference between creating a category that's based, the category itself, the criteria of the category, is something that's entirely created by the human imagination, such as business clothing.
Well, they aren't
versus
entirely
saying-
created by the human imagination.
versus-
we are
versus-
observing the use of these clothes in business, which is
I
why
understand that,
which
but
is why
us-
they weren't
us
always business
deeming-
clothes.
Us
They were
deeming
hunting
this
clothes
type of
once.
clothing, us deeming this type of clothing in the category of business, okay, as humans, seems to be, it should be, I'd argue it is, but it seems like you're saying there isn't, is different than humans saying we're observing certain biological or physical characteristics and we're going to create a category around those
No,
biological
they're
and physical
completely
characteristics.
indistinct. They are identical.
You think there's
as a matter of fact.
you don't understand the difference between these two actions.
Do you know
even
the
though they're
history?
completely
Do you
different?
know the history of modern businesswear?
No, that
No.
doesn't. That's
Well,
irrelevant
actually,
to the conversation.
it does matter a little bit. See, because modern businesswear did not originate as businesswear. Modern businesswear originated as hunting wear, and it became used over time in different scenarios. And then we observed this to be businesswear. Now, in consequence, also people were imitating this in business, and it became the norm.
That
But
doesn't.
we did not simply observe in nature. Yes, the males of this species, they dress in these because it's that's
Could,
That's
could
my-
we
yeah, that's my
change?
point.
Could
That's
we
my
change
point.
the physical features of business wear at our whim? And could we do the same with the categories of animals?
yeah,
we could change the
can.
no.
But
We could change the category, but we couldn't change the physical
We
characteristics.
couldn't change the
category.
mammals.
Stop.
Yeah, that's
we
what I'm
we
getting
can't
at.
yeah, we can't change the physical characteristics we're using, but we could change the criteria of the category.
Of course, yeah.
Right, but
That's
with the-
that's the difference.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying you're saying there's no difference.
Well, here's the subtle distinction. I think you're missing a little bit, Sitch. The distinctions themselves, the things that we are identifying as the parts to be changed, that is itself arrived at through social. Fuck, I lost
I
the word.
understand that. That's not. I understand. That when we say is Pluto a planet, right? We're creating a criteria of humans are choosing the criteria.
Sure,
I,
yeah.
I get that.
And then by reference to the category, we determine after the fact, actually, no, we've observed it a little bit closer. This doesn't actually match your category. It's not a planet.
Exactly.
It's
Right.
yeah.
Exactly. But what I'm saying here, and you're saying there's no distinction, which I don't understand how you can say that, is there is a difference. Like there's just a literal difference.
But
Whether
there's
you
literally not.
think
though.
it's
There's
you don't think there's
literally
a
not.
difference between saying we're going to observe something that exists in nature that's biological and say we're going to make a category based on these biological
What's
characteristics.
the definition of the
and someone
biological as
just-
opposed to the non-biological?
Something what do you mean? Something that exists in nature that evolved naturally. There's a natural process of an animal versus the
Lots of things
determination
evolve
about
in
like
nature
what
besides
clothing,
biological things.
what clothing is determined to be cool. in
Evolution
2023 didn't
Sitch,
evolve out of nature.
Such evolution just refers to change. Okay, so when we're talking about the biological is not distinct among things in nature by changing. Crystals change.
Okay, so you think that there's no difference between saying I'm going to look at an animal and say that these groups of animals have mammary glands, and I'm going to use that physical characteristic about the animal, this biological characteristic about the animal, to create a group around it. You think that's the same as saying, hey, we're going to say that suits are business clothing?
Yes. Did you invent the notion of mammary glands? Did you invent the
To
notion
me,
of animals? Did you invent
that is
the
a
notion
level of intentional obtuseness.
That's not
because
being
you
obtuse.
Understand
No,
it is.
you're...
You understand that these are very different things. You might disagree with it on a philosophical level, but you understand it's a different process.
But you're interfering with a philosophical question and failing to take up its terms. So as soon as you are invoking we, you understand. What you're doing is you're saying you, embedded as you are in this social context, are saturated with an understanding.
Is red and blue
concepts.
a different color?
What?
Is red and blue the same color?
These are purely perceptual. This is a terrible. This is a terrible.
Why are you answering the question?
So red and blue are the same color, or are they different colors?
That's a very simple question. You need me to answer for you? I know the answer.
I would say we treat them as different colors, but for example, somebody who's colorblind.
We treat them as different colors?
So things that are different can be different from each other.
Well, no, because these
are
elements.
they are the same. So
well, no, because these are concepts.
How do we tell the difference?
Is a cup and a chair the same thing, or is it a different thing?
They're different things.
Okay. So if we say one thing is based on something that's a biological characteristic, and one thing is based on what humans create, how can you say that they're not different from each other?
No. The process by which we identify these things as such is identical at bottom.
I'm not talking about how we identify something.
But you are. You really are.
No, you're talking about you keep jumping ahead to the categorization aspect of it. Yes, you are.
You're conflating the categorization with the things in the category.
Right. What is the word?
I'm asking you again. What does the word biological entail for you? What do you think?
Something that
means?
Exists in nature.
But lots of rocks exist in nature. Computers exist in nature. What do you mean by nature?
There's a political reason to separate these. Like the whole, Born This Way movement comes out of separating these. I don't understand what you gain by saying no, they're exactly the same.
Hang on.
There's this weird level of pedantic conversation where we say, what does the word biology mean? As if
what does it mean?
But
what does it mean?
I'll look it up for you. I'll give you the most best Merriam-Webster definition that you can get.
But
they actually give a really shitty definition.
What do you think? How do you think the dictionary gets the definition?
Of relating to biology or to life and living processes. Okay, there you go. Something relating to life and living processes. That doesn't include rocks. Does that help you?
What is the dictionary getting its definition from? From social use.
That has nothing to do with why.
Yes, it does.
There's nothing. No, it doesn't. You literally don't understand what I'm saying.
No,
you keep jumping ahead to the category and not the criteria. Do you not understand? Okay, what is the difference between a mouse and a rock?
There are many differences between mice and rocks.
Well, what are the differences? Are there any? Is this just a social construct that a mouse and a rock are not the same thing?
Well, mice are furry except when they're not. Mice move except when they don't. Mice have certain organs except when they don't. Mice have tails except when they don't.
Mammals,
kind of like a rock.
Mammals?
Okay, so things can.
Well, that's an excellent question. By reference to what? It can't be the presence of organs because, for example, if we remove those organs from the mouse, a mouse would nonetheless, I think we would all agree, remains a mouse by the fact that we've remained the organs from it.
Right.
We've removed the organs from it.
Right.
Yeah,
indeed. That's true.
Yes.
That's a good point. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So what is a woman? Is it somebody with a womb? Somebody with no Y chromosomes? Somebody
this is the problem with this whole conversation, because whenever you guys on the left bring up the what is a woman conversation, what you do is you do this framing device where you say your definition of woman must be a universal definition that encompasses every.
Let's go. I really want to go back. I really want to go back to the difference between.
Wait, and doesn't encompass anything else.
Sitch, I've got a really, really interesting question for you. What is the difference between life and minerals?
We don't generally think of minerals as conscious entities or animals.
We don't. Not all life are conscious entities or animals. There are plants, for example. There are algae.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, what do these things circulate to keep themselves alive?
Oh, this is just looking at edge cases, and they don't.
No, these aren't edge cases. This is actually ubiquitous. They use minerals.
They don't. None of this breaks the conflation
I think the way
that you're making.
I'm trying to remember my seventh grade biology. I'm trying to remember how they categorize life versus minerals. It has something to do with like eating and reproducing, I believe. Eating and reproducing and responding to external stimuli. I think there's like 5 criteria. I don't remember what each criteria was, but something along those
So
lines.
is that?
And then you
is
say
it- is,
rocks don't eat, rocks don't reproduce. Rocks don't really respond to external stimulus.
If a human
So-
doesn't eat or reproduce, is it therefore not alive?
Well, if it doesn't eat, it'll die.
It will
It
die,
doesn't-
but is it not alive?
It doesn't
by dint of
respond
not
to external
eating?
stimulus if it's comatose, right?
But if it's
It'll
not
die.
eating, is it not alive? Like, suppose you manage to seal it in like a case,
Oh,
right?
this is so. Why are we doing this?
No, you
This-
seal
Well, do I
seal
ha-
it, seal it in carbon.
Yeah, but you're
like
you're
in
literally
Star
making
Wars.
my point. I don't understand. You're literally just making my point.
You don't understand, which is why you think I'm making.
No,
point. So
you're
if you
you're making
seal-
my point about the way that
I'm-
this argument is framed is very dishonest in
I'm
terms of saying
really-
you have to have
I'm-
this universal category that
really
encompasses
not.
everything at all times.
I'm really not. So suppose we encase a human being.
You
in
just did.
carbonate.
You said, "What if the human isn't eating?
So
Does he
suppose
cease
we
to be alive?"
suppose we encase a human being in carbonate. So there is no intake of any.
It doesn't
particles
matter. The
outside of itself.
categories are social.
Can I just finish
constructs.
my
You've already
goddamn sentence?
conceded that, so we can change the
So
category. It doesn't matter.
So if,
No,
if you
it's-
encase a human being in a non-porous material such that there is no interchange between
No.
particles
So-
from the outside to particles on the inside, it'll inevitably die within a few seconds. But for those few seconds, it is not eating, it is not reproducing. Is it alive or is it already dead?
No, it's alive because it's. If I look up, life is defined as a system capable of performing.
But it's not
functions
capable.
such as
We have
eating,
robbed it of its
metabolizing.
capability.
What do you mean? It is capable of doing it. We're creating artificial restraints that are preventing it from doing so.
But it's
still
not. It's not
doing it.
capable of doing it because it has restraints that keep it from doing so.
That's
The
that's
nature
obviously
of
not
capability
that's
is that if you're
obviously-
not
wait,
able to
wait,
do
wait.
it, you're not capable.
Wait, obviously, when they say capable of, they mean capable of not being restrained by some sort of artificial mechanism.
If some
Why? What is the purpose of playing?
That's
this
not
game?
what that
The whole
means.
The
my-
purpose of playing this game is to try to play word games with categories to try to win arguments without actually winning arguments on logic.
But
That's the
isn't that
purpose of it.
sophistry? Isn't that pure
It
sophistry?
is sophistry. The entire conversation around the what is a woman thing in doing this is sophistry. Yeah.
fellas.
Well, it seems like sophistry. I'm just like, I thought we were having. There. You understand what I'm saying about
No.
the categorical difference between a social construct and a biological construct being
No, he doesn't.
essential to the gay rights movement.
But it's not, though. It is
Well, it
actually
was,
not
actually, yeah.
ubiquitously the case that people who are pro-gay rights are insistent on it being
Why?
a born issue. In fact, actually, by the
Wait,
way,
do you even agree that? Do you think
that people are born that way?
gay?
Not
Yeah.
categorically. Some people are. Some people aren't.
So then,
Oh, no, but wait,
you-
some
Well,
people
because
are-
for
wait,
example,
wait,
this
some people
opens
are
up.
that way.
No, because you're actually very mistaken about the stakes involved. If it is indeed the case that all gay people are simply born this way, well, that would refer specifically to a genetic principle. Yes, it would be
Well, it
by
could be
dint of birth.
epigenetic
It would be
or
by
something.
dint of birth specifically that
Well,
somebody
no,
is gay.
there could be other biological factors, but
Well, biological factors are going to be genetic. Yes.
well,
biological.
There could be things that aren't necessarily like you're not 100% like something.
Okay,
could-
the point I'm
could be
getting
set
at,
off,
Sitch. Yeah,
right?
okay, just don't hurt your head. So the point I'm getting at, Sitch.
Thank you. I'll try.
The point I'm getting at, Sitch, is that if indeed it is a matter of being born this way, and if it is identified as something, for example, pathological, as many people do, then gay people can be targeted in the womb or prior to that. You can actually start to look at controlling for people eugenically so that they aren't gay afterwards, or things.
it doesn't
like that.
change the reality of the
Yeah, it doesn't change
situation,
whether it's
though.
true.
Well, here's it's actually. No. The point to that
you
is
saying
that,
that we should
no. You're not
categorize
you're
things
not
how
following
they
what I'm saying.
aren't
You're not.
to
You're
make
not.
a political argument?
Hang on. You're not keeping up, Adam. So the problem is not that there isn't
Yeah,
a
I-
biological component to human experience or human proclivities or things like that. Obviously, we're organic beings. The point is that it is not ubiquitously the case that gay rights activists are going to be also onboarding the notion that gay people must be born this way. I
Do
don't
you accept
think
conversion therapy? Do you think conversion
No.
therapy works?
depends on what you mean. So, for
Do you think
example,
Conversion
that's-
therapy, someone who's homosexual is attracted to men, being turned heterosexual and is suddenly attracted to women. You know what conversion therapy is?
I do know what conversion therapy is.
Okay.
So,
do-
for
do
example, if I took you, okay, you're attracted to women. Am I correct?
I am, yeah, definitely.
Okay. So if I took you at an early age, say, very early, and every time I showed you a picture of a woman as a child, I electroshocked you,
Right.
you would probably, quite likely, not be attracted to women later on. Doesn't mean you'd be attracted to
Doubtful.
men. but it's possible you wouldn't be
I
attracted
would probably
to women.
find a girlfriend that gave me electroshock therapy.
Look, the point is,
Do it.
the point is, it is perfectly hypothetically the case that a brain which is made of material things, that is the consciousness that arises from.
You are endorsing electroshock therapy here. You're
No, I'm
basically
not.
saying,
No, I'm not. That's like saying, hey, Adam, do you think gas chambers work?
No,
Oh, does
let's-
that mean you're
look-
endorsing gas chambers? That's a stupid
Okay.
conclusion, Adam.
you're not endorsing this, but you're saying you can use some sort of caustic external stimulus to make people not like certain things.
Not
You're
just
saying,
with respect to sex, with everything.
but
Yeah, but that
my,
doesn't
my
mean people.
question,
Wait,
my
wait, wait,
question
wait,
to you,
That
would
doesn't
they
mean
still-
people.
just
that
one
doesn't
second,
mean,
Sid, just
It
one
doesn't mean
second,
people
Sid.
weren't born that way. Just because you
Just-
can
You're
change
correct,
it
it
through
doesn't.
physical conditioning.
That's
Okay,
correct, but I don't actually see a reason to think that people are necessarily born that way either. I would conjecture it's a mix. I would say there are some people who discover later in life, by dint of experience, they prefer one over the other, and there are people for whom they have like a natural proclivity just in one direction. I think I think it runs the gamut.
Well,
If you
wait,
do
wait,
the
wait.
shock, if you do the shock therapy on me, am I still going to be attracted to women? I'm just going to have to suffer, or you literally make changing my attraction to men?
Well, you might also suffer, and it might also like, I mean, this would be the argument against conversion therapy, and that you're essentially raping the person's mind and damaging.
So, but
them. You're
is
not
is
actually-
that attraction that I have to women biological?
It depends on what you mean by that. Are we separating the biological from
Is
the
it a
psychological?
social construct or is it biological? You've
The
said
biological
there's no
the
difference.
biological is a social construct, which is why I'm saying there's no difference. You're insisting on the difference
the
while also asking me
category-
if there's.
The category is a social construct, but the fact that I'm attracted to women is not a social construct.
But it is. You're deliberately talking about your association with other people, namely women in this case,
I thought you said that you.
as
thought
opposed
that
to,
people
for
were
example,
born
non-women,
with
like
sexual
where even the categories themselves are socially constructed.
I thought. Wait, I thought you said that you agreed that people were born with sexual orientation, just being straight or gay.
Not
You
categorically.
said some
no.
people.
That's a big
No.
claim. I don't know if everybody's born sexually attracted to the.
Well, I
other.
didn't say everybody. Do you think some people are born with sexual orientation hardwired into their brain? I'm not saying it
Probably.
can't be changed. Okay. Okay.
That's definitely a possibility. It's a strong possibility. I'd bet money on it, but I don't know.
I mean, it'd be pretty hard for life.
I mean,
to,
do you know how have you
evolve
how
in
you
such a way
discern
that
this?
that wouldn't be the case?
See, with
But
all
that
due
is
respect,
literally the reason
with
the
all due
song is
respect-
born this
With all due
way.
respect, what it kind of sounds like to me when I'm listening to this is you've discerned that you're having a little bit of difficulty keeping up. And so you've got a tactic. And the tactic is I'm going to try and leverage the ease with which we can make nuance and ambiguity look really toxic to my cartoon villain notion of what the left is. And I'm going to try and shoehorn the conversation that way because we can't compete otherwise. That's what this reads like to me.
Wrong.
Yeah, that's not what's happening.
If only saying it would make it so.
No. Well, that's
We're trying to get to the substance.
I mean,
of
this is
what's
like,
going
okay,
on here.
so you and everyone on the left who basically do these word games with gender and sex are just
I'm
doing,
a
doing
right-winger
sophistry
by
and
temperament,
BS
my
word
friend.
game arguments.
Can I level
because
with
the
you?
reason
Can I
that
level
we
with you?
brought up sexual orientation
no.
and the thing is that this is because it seemed like for years, and something that which me and Adam agreed with, the left's argument generally for
Who are you
gay
referring
rights
to?
was
Who are you referring
based
to?
on the
left's-
idea.
wait, hang on.
What?
The left is not a trademark term. Who are you referring to when you say the left's
The
argument?
general mainstream
Don't- no.
left argument, if we have to be so
But-
shallow and pedantic.
So are
with
you
this
talking about
conversation.
second wave feminists? Are you
Okay.
talking about communists? Are you talking about
The
tankies?
general-
Are you
as I
talking
said-
about Lady
soft
Did I,
men?
wait. Are communists the mainstream left in America? No, they're not. Okay. When I say
Who are
the
you
general
referring
left, mainstream left, you understand what I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I do not at all.
Okay. Well, I
There
don't
was
know
a
how to have
point
a
in time- well,
conversation
case
with
in
someone who
point.
doesn't know what the mainstream left means in the sake of this conversation.
Me neither.
Were you like who
So
apparently
here's-
was asleep during the entire gay rights movement, in their lifetime, that doesn't understand that the mainstream argument was that gay people were born this way, and that's why it was cruel to try to change them.
While this was taking place, the most successful news station in your country thought of liberals and the left as being synonyms.
They were in America for most
No,
of the
they
time.
weren't. No, they weren't.
Okay.
You
Now,
were
well, yeah. To
very- you were
leftists
deeply
never
confused.
accept that liberals are on the left in America, but this is like the monarchists saying that conservatives aren't really right wing because they're not monarchists.
Look, I didn't
Well, with
want to
respect to
this
monarchy, they wouldn't be.
Oh,
But
so it's
monarchy
almost
is not
like
the
we
fixed point.
shouldn't we shouldn't make these determinations about left or right versus on the extreme, but on what the most people in the country think.
It's
And for
not.
most people in the country think being a liberal puts you on the left in America.
Well, no, it's not based on the extreme. The only common thread that I can discern is with respect to having treating something as a fixed point to be defended and being open to reforming or replacing it, things of that sort. I'm actually taking for example, the Machiavelli versus Aristotle position.
Can
Okay,
you
I don't know.
answer-
First, wait. This is okay. First of all, again, you keep changing the subject, which is funny. Okay.
Well, no, it's
so
an
again,
example.
no, because
not
this is
changing
this
subject.
is your entire argument.
You
Sunday.
seem
If
you seem a
just
little
deconstruct- It's
agitated.
just
Sitch.
deconstruct all the categories and then play these word games.
I didn't
like,
deconstruct
oh,
anything.
Well, you,
What
yes,
did I
you did.
What did I
Yes,
deconstruct?
the very first thing I said, the left-wing argument. You said, what does the left wing mean?
Asking
Sitch?
for
I don't know what that
clarity is
means."
deconstructed.
And then I said, well, the mainstream left wing. And you're like,
Sitch,
what is the mainstream left wing, Sitch? I don't know what that means. And I
He's
say,
asking
you are
what
doing
I
it.
say, President Sunday,
Sitch.
were you not alive for the last 40 years when I say the mainstream left? You don't know what I'm talking about?
No,
And then
I'm
you said,
32.
well,
So
the
Sitch.
liberals aren't even left, Sitch. These categories don't mean anything.
The liberals aren't left. That's why liberals, for example, on YouTube are constantly complaining about leftoids right now. You're a little bit behind the current. Sitch, asking you for clarification.
Wait. That's because
No,
what are you talking
I
about?
will
That's because
not.
the socialists want to
Sitch,
destroy liberalism.
asking you-
Obviously, liberals don't like leftists from that perspective.
Asking you, what about sock dems? Asking you for clarification onto whom you were getting, you were using as a sample, as a representative sample of a vast and non-specified grouping of many different people with many different philosophical and ethical commitments. That's not deconstructing. Deconstructing would be taking apart the components of what you're saying to try
Now
to
he's
determine their meaning.
deconstructing deconstructionism.
I
Sitch, how do you
know.
like this?
I know.
No, I'm clarifying.
No, you're not. You are, because when I said the mainstream left, you know what I mean.
No,
and
I
you're
don't.
lying.
No,
you
I
are
don't. And
lying
you're
when you
lying
say
when
you
you
don't.
you're
Every
being
single
dishonest right
person
now.
knows. If I say
they
the
don't.
mainstream left for the last 30 years, okay, you have a pretty good sense of what I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
They
For
say,
example,
I don't know what
no,
you're
no.
talking about.
Well,
I have no
Sitch,
clue.
Sitch.
And then when you say, well, the
Sitch.
Democrats aren't
Can
really
we
on the
go back
left,
to
I go,
the-
oh,
Sitch,
okay, so
Sitch.
this is like the
Sitch,
socialist
hang on,
leftist
Sitch,
nonsense.
Sitch.
Okay.
Quick,
Let's
Sitch.
dial it back.
Sitch.
Riddle me this.
Sitch.
No, riddle me
Sitch.
this.
That'll be the
Sitch,
new song.
Sitch.
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 Okay.
Let's dial it.
Sitch.
Let's dial
Riddle
it back.
me
No.
this, Batman.
Important question. Riddle me this. If the left has been the same for the past 30 years, when's the meme that the left
never said it was
eats
the
its
same.
own? Well,
I
then
never
what are
said
you
it was the same.
referring to then, Sitch? You're referring to a consensus that's abided for decades. What are you talking about? When you say the
I said
left's
the
position.
Okay, so again, we're playing games here. We don't know what the mainstream left was in the
Well,
last
we are
30
playing
years.
games in the sense that
None
we
of
are
this even
speaking
matters.
English.
None
But-
of this even matters because the argument
doesn't.
could be made by
You're right, Adam.
two
It doesn't
people
matter
on the
because
left, and we're just want to
because-
examine the argument.
it does. That's you're right because this is what happened is that we were talking about, as you said, oh, I don't understand why you guys keep bringing up sexual orientation, whether it's fixed in biology. When I try to explain it, you immediately sidetrack the conversation by pretending you don't know
because
what
there
we're
is no
talking
consensus
about.
that
Okay.
sexual orientation is fixed in biology. I
Do
don't know
you-
what you're referring to.
First of all,
But-
wait. The majority of consensus is on that. I'm sure there are people that disagree with that. The majority of consensus is that sex orientation is a biological process that people are born that way.
I'm pretty sure
So
it's
that's not true.
I'm pretty sure
Even-
the
even if-
consensus.
Wait. Why do you wait?
I'm pretty
If
sure
you-
the consensus is that
if you
sexual
take-
orientation is.
Why is it that if a gay person and you give them a brain scan, their brain structures are more likely to align with the opposite sex?
I don't know. Is that
Well,
a fact?
then it has to be biological, doesn't it?
Well, that doesn't necessarily follow. This is a basic correlation causation fallacy you're engaging in. I'd have to look at the study and particularly know their methodology to criticize it.
Okay, this is okay.
But-
You're right. This is a causation correlation fallacy, right?
You-
It
The
is.
brains just
look,
happen to align with the opposite sex for a completely unrelated reason, the fact that they're gay.
Well, here's a. Well,
even
hang
if
on.
the-
Well,
even if
here's.
the science,
Well,
even
right
if
off the
the
bat.
science is
hang on, Adam.
completely
So right
wrong,
off
we
the
can have a
bat-
conversation about the political
of course
argument
we can. Well, hang
based
on.
on bad science.
So case.
My interest is in the political argument. That's the
great.
whole
So-
reason I
so-
asked you the question.
Okay, I want to respond to Sitch though quickly. So, Sitch, very easy case in point, right? So we observe, their brain scan seems similar to women's. Maybe it's the case that people are socialized in a certain society when they identify as gay to behave in a manner that is common to women. And maybe that produces, for example, similar patterns of brain activity to cis women in their society. That would mean that it's not actually
talking about brain
organically
activity.
derived. That would
I'm
mean
not
that
talking
it's...
about brain activity. I said brain structures.
Well,
Yeah.
brain structures are determined by history Sitch. Our
To
brains,
to
our
that-
brains
to-
change in structure based upon our
there's
experience
right.
and based upon
There's some level of
nutrition and all sorts
malleability.
of things.
Right. There's
No,
some level
there's
of malleability,
a
but
massive amount of
it's not
malleability.
to the extent that like, oh, if you just, treat a guy like a girl, his brain is going to like become a girl brain. That's not how that works.
What do you mean that's not how that? How have you determined this?
Well, I mean, John Money tried to do that and kind of ended tragically. So
Yeah.
No,
Pretty
no,
good
you're
case
you're
study.
you're missing the point here.
Let's go back to the original question.
wait, what am I
okay?
missing the point here? That was your argument. You said you could just condition someone to have a girl brain. That's boy.
No, I'm saying that the bare fact that once again there are going to be restraints that we can discover on how malleable things are doesn't mean that you can simply say that on like on analysis in fMRI machine, the brains look similar on average between women and gay men. That therefore, what are you actually making like the Kraft Ebing argument that gay men are actually just inverted males who are sexually attracted in a womanly way?
Have you
No.
seen Tenet? It sounds like it. Oh, that's a great movie. They're just
What's that have
inverted
to do with it?
males.
Oh, okay. There you go. They put them through the backwards time machine. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's not my argument. I'm just saying that there's obviously there's biological markers that show for homosexuality. I believe it's also there's a higher prevalency in people that have homosexual family members of being homosexual too. There's many markers that show this is biological.
Like regardless of the science, let's go back to the original question.
Well, what about
I don't know,
this?
this is kind of important.
Well, hang on. How about, let's like play
He's
through.
never
wait,
going
do
to
you-
give
do
in
you-
though, Sitch.
No, but I've got-
obviously.
Do you
a really-
think that
I've got a
there
really
are
good-
any
I've got a really-
biological average differences in terms of personality between men and women either, or are people just like blank slates?
I don't. No, nobody's a blank slate. I don't care though. So
Okay.
what I was going to say
Well, that's
though
important
is
in the
consider this situation. A child is born in a very heteronormative, staunchly conservative area. His only exposure to homosexual activity is representations of pedophilia and sexual assault. And this is very typical in a lot of older media where gay people are depicted as being
Sure.
creepy and degenerate and things like that. Okay, and so as a consequence of this, despite as a consequence of this, they are categorically unable. There are mental walls put in place from a very early age to even entertaining the notion of having other people of the same sex in that kind of relationship with you. And then they move out later on in life, and they see media that depicts this in a non-toxic way. And they start to talk to people, and they engage with people, and these walls are broken down. And so previously, they may have spent their entire life only being capable of being sexually interested in women, but then later on, they are capable of being sexually interested in men as well, or vice versa. In fact, maybe they've come to prefer it. Maybe they realize over time that actually, no, there are features, at the very least in this society or under these contexts, of people with these specific characteristics that they prefer over people with these specific characteristics, both personality-wise, sociality-wise, and physically. And as a result of this, they come to only be attracted to men over a period of time. And they lose all interest in women. So much so, in fact, that it would be as difficult to force them to be attracted to women as it would be if they had been born with a natural proclivity to men instead.
Right.
This is a case of somebody. This is a case of
So-
someone.
Unrelated to my question.
So when I've heard gay people talk
No,
about
no.
the
Here's
exact
the point. No, but I'm
situation
making
that
a very
you're
I'm making a very critical
Okay,
point.
what
here.
is the point you're trying
You
to
ask if conversion therapy is possible. Living within a political community is a form of conversion therapy. We are not raised to be the way we would be if we were raised in the wild.
We're using the word conversion
Everything
therapy
about us is
differently.
conditioned. No,
We're using the
really,
word
we're really
conversion
not
different.
though.
No,
The
we
only-
are, because when we say conversion therapy, what we mean is that someone who is born straight or gay and you actually make them change to be the opposite, and it doesn't matter what happens afterwards in terms of the environment. Okay.
It's
What
like the
you're talking-
left-handed thing.
Right. So what you're talking about, whenever I've heard a gay person talk about the experience, growing up in a place where,
You were speaking to
they
on this
were
very
kind of
moment.
repressed. Whenever I've heard a gay person talk about the experience that you laid out here, talking about being repressed, the way I've always heard it described is that they felt that they were different at a very young age, and they learned that whatever they were feeling about boys or girls, regarding what sex they were, was wrong, and so they would suppress these feelings. They would try to like trick themselves, or they try everything they could to be straight, and then eventually they get out of that situation and they're like, oh, I'm finally like can be who I was. That's always how they describe it. I can finally be who I was. They don't say, oh, I changed to be straight and then I changed to be gay again. It's always,
Okay,
oh, they
well-
forced this thing on me, but it was never really me. It never really fit
So
me.
for the people that you've talked to, I'm sure that was the case.
Okay, I've never heard it described in any other way.
You have just now.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, it's not really related to the question I was asking. Look, I understand that you're saying social construct and biological construct are the same. But my question was, what is the purpose of separating social constructs from biological constructs? And I think we can talk about that in a political context.
Oh no, we're
even if
not.
you don't,
I'm not.
even if
I'm
you
not
don't,
separating them. But I'm not
no,
separating them. I'm just saying don't use the
what's
biological as
what's the
no,
question?
no.
Did you eat breakfast yesterday?
No.
Did you eat
So
breakfast yesterday?
no. So a biological.
What would it feel like if you didn't eat breakfast
I'm
yesterday?
explaining like really basic social intelligence.
Just tell me what would it feel like though if you didn't eat breakfast yesterday?
I don't know how to answer that. So the point I'm making is not
imagine that you
Adam,
didn't eat breakfast yesterday.
Let Dave finish.
Adam, the point is not that the biological and the social are distinct. The point is that you shouldn't be using the biological as a category, as an elevator word, to mean closer to reality.
Do you accept that other people in the world who share the world with us, who read things and produce content, often separate social constructs and biological constructs?
They do so erroneously. Because the biological is a category of social construct.
According to you, exactly.
Not just according to me.
We can have a conversation about why they're doing that, what their motivation for doing that is.
This is really, really basic philosophy of science, guys. Like, I'm sorry,
wait a minute. You don't understand. There's no the philosophy of science. Not everyone agrees on that social construct should be defined the way that you're defining it. There's a lot of disagreement about that.
Of course, yeah.
No, it is absolutely understood that the
demarcation is the biggest controversy.
Demarcation is an act, Adam.
Demarcation is a big controversy in philosophy of science.
It's an act, though. When we demarcate,
but let's not get sidetracked on philosophy of science.
You're really like averse to any sort of elaboration or specification of anything that you say.
I'm just trying to stay on topic. Look, I'm trying.
No,
to
you're
stay
really
on
not. In fact, from go, your sole contribution has been to try and deviate the conversation.
That's not the case.
Ironic, but okay.
That's not the case. Look, I'm the one that went back to the question. I'm the one that's saying the world separates things into social constructs and biological constructs.
No, it doesn't. The world? What do you mean the world?
My God. Lady Gaga wrote a song called Born This Way. It is a very popular song. Have you not heard the song Born This Way? What is Lady Gaga talking about in this song, Born This Way?
She's just talking about apparently nothing. Because there's no difference between being born this way and business casual.
Well, no, maybe she was born this way. But actually, incidentally, by the way, environmental conditioning starts in the womb. It's not when you're born.
Sure, but that still could be a biological factor. Sure.
It is. Well, we would classify it as a biological factor, but the world does not identify it as a biological factor versus a social factor. The world makes no such distinctions. Man is the measure of all things. We set these limits. We drew these lines.
Right. So obviously everyone here, as a very intelligent gentleman, can understand the difference between something that's purely social, something that's biological, something that's environmental that can affect the biological.
Well, no, we can't, clearly.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I would, for example, the social in this context is emergent between organic beings. It's going to be directly tied to how we relate to the world, how we metabolize it, how we reproduce.
Are you taking a based Evo Psych take? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, Evo Psych is one of the... Evo Psych should be a really interesting field.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is what people in EvoPsych have a strong tendency to do, judging from what I've seen, is to try and look for human behaviors that we observe presently, ignore the fact that there are historical contributions to these, so that these are not strictly conditioned by evolution, and then to try to find an evolutionary basis for it. And that's preposterous.
I want a super nuanced take here. I want your most nuanced take available, okay?
I need to get some coffee after this, okay?
Okay. I want you to tell me why Lady Gaga wrote the song Born This Way and make it totally nuanced.
Capitalism.
That's not very nuanced.
All right, I'm going to get coffee. Okay, I'll be right back, guys.
Okay. You get a coffee.
Yes. Are we allowed to read some super chats while you're getting your coffee?
Go for it.
You want us to read some of
No
your
slurs,
super
okay?
chats?
I have
slurs. Okay.
We don't like slurs either, so.
J-Mac, our surrogate father.
Unless it's
I don't know if father's a slur, but J-Mac, our surrogate father, for $20 says, murder and innocence are just social constructs. So did Penny really murder Neely? Or maybe Neely murdered Penny.
Oh my
or maybe pedantic word games are stupid and a waste of time for anyone who actually seeks the truth. I mean, I don't disagree.
I mean, it is kind of fun, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
S-
As long as
Snowboard-
we're not being this office, okay?
Right. Snowboard Dan for $20 says, "Is this Vosh's long lost dumber brother?" Ouch. Angel Bergino for $20 says, "A team is the team of booty warriors." Booty warriors. Are you
What
worried
does
about
that
booty?
mean?
I don't know. It's got a flex emoji
Is
after it too.
is that chasing the booty warriors?
I guess not a booty
Look,
warrior.
I'm
booty
retired. I'm
warrior.
officially retired. Okay.
Right. Right.
Yes.
Christian Ball for 10.
Sitch has to take up the mantle of the booty warriors.
The booty warrior. Yeah. Christian Ball for $10 says, "Sorty's paradox. Sitch, call it out. This isn't a real argument." Yeah, I'll try to get back there. There's like 20 arguments being thrown out here. So. Okay. Fruges for 3,000 yen. Thank you, Fruges. Says, "Hey, Adam and Sitch, I've been an avid listener and fan since your Kyle Rittenhouse coverage, and have to say I thought you handled Katie perfectly." Well, thank you. The mic drop moment was towards the end of the conversation when you pointed out that her justification for one thing would mean that institutional racism was merely conspiratorial thinking.
Oh,
It's
that was
important to
great.
have abrasive people on from time to time. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hug boxes are boring. If you're wondering where my wrench came from, I'm the guy who suggested putting quotes around comedy show. Keep up the good work.
Well, it made it in there.
There you go. Well, that
Yes.
you do deserve a wrench for that, Frugus. It's good.
Yes, yeah. Thank you so much for the super chats too.
WT1A1A for $5 says, "Hey Adam, I sent you a DM on Discord about Vermont's abortion law. TLDR, Vermont, you can kill a baby at 9 months and force a dad to pay for a kid he doesn't want." That's not good.
Yeah, that's a little backwards, isn't it?
Fondue for $5 says, "Well, I would believe." Maybe I shouldn't read this one till later. I'm not going to read any insults till later. Okay, how about that?
Yeah.
John Bender for $10 says, "I think S-Class just won me over for putting Sunny in his place. Take my money. A-Train still beef supreme, but that was great to listen to." Thank you, John. Ink Punk for one gifted sub. Thank you. Blackout for $10 says, "Sitch, sitch, 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 sitch." True. Fondue for $5 says, "Sitch, Sunday's just trying to flip the table with his sophistry. Just let him and kick him at this point." No, we're not going to kick anybody.
Look, he's a friend of the show, guys.
There you go. Friend of the show, President Sunday.
Look, the other super chat said it all. Hug boxes are boring. Who wants to sit
True.
around and listen to a hug box?
True.
Listen to us pat each other on the back about how smart we are. Oh, look, we're enlightened centrists. This is amazing how cool we
That's
are.
my favorite thing to do. What do you mean? I love doing that.
I mean, we can do that after Sunday leaves.
Right.
No, you
you
agree.
go.
It's boring to come on.
Yes, I agree.
I try to bring on contentious guests because it's more interesting.
True.
It is. We're testing ideas.
Not So Wild for £3 says, "Evolution is not a social construct. How is it biological?" Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
I know.
case. It's so simple. Like, why is this conflation going on between the
Right.
category and the things in the category?
Well,
It's like, do I have to draw a
right.
diagram, like a circle with a bunch of dots in it?
I know.
Like,
There's
look,
no
what?
difference.
There's a circle here and there's a dot. What's the difference between the circle and the dot?
Right. Mark Twain's Revenge for $10 says, "Sunday, you're on a runaway train coming up to a fork. On one side, 4 homeless drug addicts are tied to the tracks. On the other side, 4 stable employed people." Which side do you choose? There you go.
I don't want to hear the answer to that one. I'm terrified.
There you go. Ginger Miss. Oh, he's back. Welcome back. That was not how you do it.
Sorry about that. The
okay.
kettle took
Welcome
forever
back.
to boil.
Don't worry about it.
Are you a tea
tried,
drinker
do you like
or a
iced
coffee
coffee
drinker?
at all?
What's that?
You like iced coffee at all?
I love iced coffee. Any kind of coffee.
You should try the I got Adam on the Starbucks blonde roast.
Oh,
The
yeah,
blonde
that's
roast,
delicious.
the hot blonde roast is good too. The problem is they never fucking make it. You have to get it.
No, you can go to like the supermarket and buy like a jug of the cold blonde roast.
Really?
Yeah, cold brew.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
Is
That's
that
what I'm
available?
drinking.
Is that available in Canada? Do you know?
Oh, I don't fucking know.
I'll have to.
Uh-oh.
I mean,
I'll have
maybe
to look
not.
for that.
Canada's a wasteland, so it could be maybe not.
All right. My mother told me not to play with my food, so I think we should move to a friendlier topic as we're heading on to the third hour.
Well, no, but I think you should answer Adam's question. Is what was the
Oh, do you have a question?
Well, no, it was the question that you said capitalism. What was the purpose of Lady Gaga doing the Born This Way song? Like, what is her purpose in her mind? Like, what is the point of that rhetoric?
I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know the lyrics
Well,
of the
no,
song.
What is the point of
Besides
anyone
the born
making
this
that
way
argument?
part.
What was the point of anyone in the LGBT movement making that argument?
Well, if somebody in the LGBTQ movement did make that argument, I would imagine that the purpose would be to try and entrench against, for example, like arguments against conversion therapy or against social contagion theories.
Right.
The idea that this was something fixed and immutable, and that therefore you were going against nature by trying to change people's sexual proclivities or orientations.
Right. So you understand that there is people do.
No, there's political
value.
there's political advantages to doing so, but there are also downsides as well. A case in point, like the people who originated that notion.
I understand. That's not what I was going to say.
Oh no, I understand, but like I'm elaborating because it's an important
Okay.
detail. So the people who originated that notion were not concerned with the rights of those people; they were concerned with finding an explanation for a pathology. So like you can make use of that politically in a positive way, but I think that there's downsides to that, and a lot of other leftists do as well. This is not a ubiquitous position. Not even in the fight for gay rights would this a ubiquitous position.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, but you, as you laid out, you understand that part of the argument against conversion therapy was that, well, it's not justifiable for you to try to like change someone's nature in terms of being gay or straight if they're born this way, as opposed, because the old idea used to be that, oh, if you're gay, you're just choosing to live in sin, right? You're just choosing to do this action because you're some kind of like deviant.
Well, here's the problem. You're kind of assuming, and a lot of people make this assumption, which is question begging, and this is one of the weaknesses of the position, even from a political vantage point, that born this way means immutable, and that doesn't follow. So it's distinctly possible, for example, that everybody could be born gay or straight from the womb, and then nonetheless we can still decide to pathologize one or the other and try to condition people to be otherwise.
Sure.
We do this with lots of
that's
psychological
not really
conditions,
what I
right?
was. That's not really what I was saying, though. I was saying you understand that originally, especially the religious argument against homosexuality, was that this was a choice a person was making, and thus you should just shame them or prevent them from making this choice. The way you would, someone could choose.
Well, I
to
mean,
steal
in
or
a
some
lot of
other
Christian
action,
doctrine,
right?
we also inherit sin, so it's not necessarily the case that even a Christian perspective is wedded to the idea that this is not innate.
Okay, you can make a theological argument about that.
Well, you invoked it, not
Again,
me.
that's not what I asked you. I asked you, do you understand that this was the common argument made against homosexuality?
Among certain
especially in
communities, it
religious
was, but it's not ubiquitous. It's not universal.
Okay.
There are Christian
That's fine.
social constructivists. They're yeah.
Do you think the argument's a bad argument?
Which one? That people are born that way?
He doesn't. He thinks it's a bad argument. Yeah.
No. I think it's a universal statement. I think it's question begging, and I don't have confidence in it as like a statement of like certainly some people are absolutely. Maybe even the vast majority of them are. I have no idea.
So basically, you're laying out that Lady Gaga and all the gay people who made the born this way argument, they're all just stupid for making that argument in the first place.
No, I think they're
I
misguided.
mean, it was politically
I think
effective, though, Sitch. I mean,
It was. Well, that's the thing. It was very politically effective.
well, I think they're misguided insofar as they're taking that to be a universal statement. If it was politically effective, great. Good for
even
them.
if it's incorrect, even if it's incorrect scientifically but politically effective, are you against them making that argument since it helped the gay rights movement?
Well,
achieve,
that's
like, marriage equality.
Well, it's a gamble. If it did indeed hinge on the efficacy of that statement, then a scientific finding that disproves it would actually undermine the entire movement, right? So that actually opens it up to that actually is a point of vulnerability as well.
Right.
That's why I
that
generally
hasn't
don't.
happened, though, so.
That's why I generally don't agree with people using unscientific or anti-scientific arguments in favor of political position, even if it's a position I agree with, because it opens it up to being dismantled later on or even nipped in the bud.
Are you in favor of marriage equality?
What?
Are you in favor of marriage equality?
Of course I am.
Okay.
Wait. Okay, so let me put in the little notepad here. Shouldn't use science for politics because I want to come back to that.
No, you can use science for politics, but don't use
You're
it.
saying
Don't.
you shouldn't. Yeah.
You shouldn't be
'Cause
trying
you can
to.
disprove it.
You shouldn't be.
Because if the science is
undermining-
overturned, then later you run into trouble. That was your argument.
Well, that's especially a problem if like the case you're making is good for other reasons. Like the case for marriage equality shouldn't hinge on gay people not being born gay or being born gay. The marriage equality argument should hinge on these are citizens whose rights and proclivities we should respect as our equals.
Do you think any?
Wait. We skipped ahead. Okay. So, but you understand,
What?
obviously. You
What did we skip?
understand-
Hang on. What did we skip?
No, I meant Adam was skipping ahead, not you.
Oh.
You understand that when we go back to the born this way argument, and that it was politically effective, and that's why this was repeated ad nauseum, even if you don't like it. You understand that argument has weight because people in general seem to put weight on this, whether you're born this way or whether something is purely crafted by people in society.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
So,
would,
but
it
this
would
is
have it would have the weight of if that was indeed like had popular assent or was portrayed in the media as
right.
having
So,
popular
okay.
assent.
So then,
It would have,
okay.
and these are distinct, by the way.
Yeah.
It would have additional social clout, so to speak, than the
Right, and this is
opposite.
why people try to make like the racist arguments, with the skull measuring and all this shit. Like they're trying to embed their racism in some sort of biological argument because
Yeah.
it seems to give the argument power to a lot of people. Right, this is sort of the way that we conceptualize information.
Sure.
And
yeah.
so this is what brings me back to the whole, you understand the difference between business casual wear and being classified as a mammal. You understand that these are distinct categories that people create in their minds, and human beings understand these things to be different from each other.
Well, of course they understand to be different from each other.
Okay.
We've sectioned them off, but there's a difference between saying something is referring to something that isn't a social situation, and saying that therefore the other thing is not itself a socially constructed category. See, when we're talking about what makes a business suit,
Did you hit your gain because it went up like a lot?
did I? I don't think I did. Hang on. I might just change my position. It seems OBS has been a little bit weird recently. Did it?
Well, why do you keep sending me pictures of men in fencing pants? I don't know why you're doing this.
I don't think changing it in OBS is changing it in Zoom though, Sitch. So whatever he's doing. Is
Well,
fine.
it worked
yeah,
last time, no?
It's affecting. Oh, that's better. Whatever you did.
Well, he turned his head away from the mic. You could see what happened.
okay.
there.
Okay, well,
not looking at the
maybe
screen.
I'll just not talk to her.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Fuck. What was the question?
It
Right.
was
Sorry.
the-
It came back to me. So yeah. So when we're talking, for example, about what makes a suit, like an article of clothing worn specifically by social beings in a social situation, like obviously the suit itself within a discourse that is socially constructed is also going to be referring to a social construct. So there are different levels of this, but that doesn't mean, therefore, that something that involves, for example, the processes that we identify, which give rise to the organisms that engage in that social behavior, that categorization isn't also itself socially constructed. The biological as a category is socially constructed. We aren't furnished with these concepts from nature. We develop them and have formed consensus around them, right? That's all
Yes,
that
but
means.
as
It's not a radical statement.
I understand that, but as I said, I would hope, and this is where you're saying there wasn't. Hope you understand the difference between forming a consensus about something that is a biological fact about a body part and business casual wear categories. And you're saying that there is no difference.
Well, functionally, in terms of how we arrive at them as facts, no difference. Like the process
what
by
do you
which we
mean?
arrive, the process by which we deal with these things, is the same. The process by which we identify something as being business wear as
The
opposed to
criteria
casual
is
wear
is
is
incredibly
identical. It doesn't matter if the criteria are arrived at by the same means. Yes.
No, I'm saying the criteria used to make the determination about these things is completely different.
Yeah, sure. We pick out some things as belonging to this socially constructed category, and others as belonging to this socially constructed category.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all I was saying. You understand there's a difference here.
Well,
They're
of
not the
course,
same
I understand there's a difference here, but the
Okay.
difference.
Well, you're
is,
saying,
is,
of course. Earlier you said no.
No. But the
so-
objection I'm making, Sitch, is not to the idea that within our discourse there's a distinction between the biological and the social, because obviously there is. The point I'm making is that the biological is not an elevator category that makes your discourse somehow closer to reality than the social. It is still within the realm of the social.
Well, I didn't even make that point, though.
Well, Adam was.
You
I was
jumped
responding to
ahead.
him as well.
Well, no, in the beginning of the conversation, no, I didn't even make that point. You were jumping ahead to some other point that you thought I might make. in the
I
future.
believe
I was
you
just trying to say,
I believe
you
you
understand
feel
the
that way.
difference between the biological and the social, and you kept saying no.
Well, no, because the question there was whether or not the biological was also socially constructed, and you were trying to insist along those lines that the biological was different
No,
from the suit,
again,
and
I
they're
said
not.
multiple times, I understand the concept that humans create all these categories, and you
Cool.
can define that as social. Doesn't mean that what's in the category is
It's not just that you
social.
can define that as social; it is defined socially.
Well, again, that's not everyone agrees on the definition of social construct the way you're using it.
Well, they're wrong.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that all the people that are disagreeing with this in the spheres of political science are all wrong. But this is the one.
I wouldn't refer to political science here. Political scientists are usually terrible for this kind of thing. Terrible.
Okay.
Aren't you a political
I
scientist?
thought that's what you
Oh yeah,
said.
and I'm in
You
a
said that
position
was
to
the
know
field that you were
political
drawing upon
scientists are
for
some of
this.
the worst theorists alive. Dear God.
Okay. Well, there you
Sociology
go.
is where it's at.
Okay.
Now you want to move on, Sitch?
I don't
I have
know.
a-
We
I
still
have a
never even
couple more
got to the
questions.
issue. Of what is a woman issue?
Are you guys gamers? I'm
games.
tired. We've been going for 2 hours. I'm not doing the what is a woman thing like at this juncture. I'm worn
No,
out.
we can
come
move
on.
we can move on. You've been very generous with your time, President Sunday. If you want to mosey on, feel free. I mean,
Well, I wanted to have like I thought because we initially had like no topic planned. I just wanted to have a chill conversation for a few minutes to end off. Get that content variety for you.
yeah, no, we can talk about whatever you want.
Sure. Do you guys game?
Sure.
Yeah,
I do.
What do you play?
Stitch does.
You don't, Adam?
Adam's in.
Well,
what
I
game?
mean, I have gamed. I mean, obviously, I used to play this. I used to play PS3 games. I played Warhawk a lot.
Actually, here's a good question for you.
I
Unrelated.
like Carmageddon. You like running over people with
like
a car?
Slay the Spire, Hades,
Oh, you're that kind of gamer. Never mind.
Sid Meier's Civilization.
You used to be really.
I played Prince of Persia. My wife made
Wait,
me finish it.
what is the
remember?
President Sunday game of choice?
Oh,
World of Warcraft? I play multi.
Hey, no, that is
Like,
that is
way
under
better.
that is below the belt. Deus Ex.
Wow, I've never played Deus Ex.
Oh, well, you're missing out. You need to play Deus
I know.
Ex.
I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, Deus Ex. Nier Automata is fantastic. If you haven't played that one.
That's the one with the butt lady.
Yeah, Adam will like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see a
Oh,
lady's butt. Or
It'll
something.
it'll deconstruct his
his male gaze.
um
That might reinforce his male gaze.
Adam, I've never actually asked you about this. You
Mm-hmm.
and the academic agent used to be tight. What happened?
He became a anti-Semite.
Were you ever
Really?
tight, or were you just
He
kind
went
of like
that far,
friendly
huh?
with him?
What's that?
Were you ever tight with him, or are you just kind of like friendly with him?
I mean, he was a fellow content creator, and I mean, no, we never hung out or anything by any means. We'd done live streams together.
Well, you were in the
Oh.
earlier live streams. You'd argue about economics and shit, weren't you?
I've never talked to academic agent privately. All of our conversations are online. So,
And what
but
was the
yes,
subject
we would
matter?
disagree about economics. Well, no, I
But
just
he
assumed
went
he knew
full
what
on
he was talking
anti-Semite.
about.
I didn't expect that. I knew he had gone sort of paleocon.
Oh, you didn't
and
know
kind
that?
of neo-reactionary. No, he's
Yeah,
too
no,
boring.
no.
I don't watch his stuff.
He's
But
super into the Jewish question stuff.
when did that start?
I don't know, a couple years ago.
I think
It's
when
been a
you
while.
didn't you get him fired from his
Oh yeah,
university
wait,
or something?
I forgot. Didn't you put him down this dark pathway Sunday?
Yeah, aren't you responsible for this?
As
bitch?
look, as powerful as I would feel if that were the
Yeah.
case, my understanding is that when a couple of his students, oh, excuse me, sorry, gross. A couple of his students were complaining about him making tweets online about like giving socialists like Pinochet helicopter rides and such. He started making legal threats against them. And then while that was blowing up, I weighed in and I said, like, I can confirm this is my experience as well, which is indeed the case. He sent me legal threats over my criticisms of him online.
So you didn't send anything to his school or anything?
Just on Twitter. I just said, like, I can confirm, like, the stuff that these
Oh,
students
you
are saying is
you,
consistent with
you
my
tweeted
experience.
the school? You said like at.
I
don't know.
tweeted.
Tell us
Yeah.
the situation just so people. can
So
know.
he wasn't fired. My understanding is there were layoffs, and that situation was a part of the decision to let him go. He wasn't a tenured professor or anything. He was just a.
when you and I first talked to one another, you wanted to debate academic agent, and you reached out to me and asked me if I could help.
Actually,
and I said
I can't
"Sure, I'll
remember. I
message
think
him."
I think both happened. I think you maybe asked me first, and then I asked you again later.
Okay. I
Yeah.
could be mistaken. It's been a long time.
I could be too.
I just remember I reached out to him and said, "Hey, you want to debate President Sunday?" And academic agent said to me, "President Sunday is insane. Why would I ever want to debate him?" And I was like,
Fair
"It
enough.
could be good, it could be good content. Like insane people are a lot of fun in my book." So, but he didn't want to do it.
You're a braver man than he is.
But then
Somebody in my
no,
chat
he
is saying.
he said that you doxed him and got him fired from his job. Is
Yes,
what he
that's-
said.
That's not
Yeah.
true. No, because he
Okay.
was.
Well, I don't look.
No,
I don't know.
because what happened was he started posting lectures that he was giving and saying it was himself, and posting books that he was publishing under his own name. So by
Yeah,
that point,
and
he had
he's
leveraged both to promote each other. So he had doxed himself by that stage.
Right.
Yeah. So
Well, I
it'd
think
be sort of
most-
like if Jordan Peterson made a Twitter account called Big Papa Lobster, and that said, "Hey, here's a lecture I gave," and it was It was a
Yeah,
lecture
right.
by Jordan Peterson under the name Jordan Peterson. And then someone said, hey, Jordan Peterson said this stuff against Jewish people on Big Papa Lobster Chat. And he's like, I can't believe these dirty leftists have doxed me. Unbelievable.
Most
There is
people
no
have
justice in the world. Yeah.
a more strict understanding of doxing than you, President Sunday. I think you're more like we're calling you President Sunday. I don't know your real name. Like if your real name was out there on some channel, some Papa Sunday channel, I wouldn't feel right about using your real
I
name
think
because you're
yeah,
using
no,
a
that's fair. And
pseudonym
I
here.
wouldn't either. I think for me, the threshold is when someone is making a direct connection between their public persona and their alt persona in such a fashion as to using one to benefit the other. So, for example, if Nima, can I say his name? If Academic Agent, sorry, if Academic Agent is leveraging his professional standing, both the fact that he's a professor at a university and the fact that he's published books and he's linking to them specifically, and the fact that he's given public lectures and he's linked to them specifically, at that point, I don't think it's beyond the pale. His public persona and the alt are intimately connected. If, however, I found, oh, here's an Instagram and here's a picture of the Academic Agent, because he only posted the lecture as the Academic Agent. Unless I was in a position to already recognize him by sight at the lecture, I think that would be beyond the pale a little bit, depending on what he's doing. If we're going into like the criminal territory, I think all bets are off. This is one of those fuzzy things.
Well, if he's a pedo, like I'm obviously dox the motherfucker, right? I
Sure,
mean,
but
geez.
you understand what I mean, though. Like the point is, I don't think
Yeah, if
people
he's
have.
on his channel supporting his own stuff, saying "buy my book," then I
Yeah,
agree. That's not
like
doxing.
Sitch,
Sure.
for example. So you're under an alt clearly. Like you value
Yes.
your anonymity.
I don't sell my own book
Yes.
under my name on this
Yeah,
channel.
yeah, sure. So if I
I do.
I do on my second
So-
channel.
Supervillains Anonymous,
so
the
look.
Indiegogo. You will
Yes.
find my real name is on the.
Right.
Yeah. So if I encountered you at the Walmart till and you had your name tag on and I recognized your voice, I said, "Hey, are you Sitch?" It's like, "Yeah." I would not therefore
How
be
did you know I work
entitled.
at Walmart?
I work with you actually. I'm in HR.
Oh my
you never come
God.
by.
I thought you sound familiar.
But like if that had been the case, like I don't think I would have the right then to like post a picture of you and then say, "Hey, look, I found him. He doxed himself. He had a name tag." Like that wouldn't be fair.
Yeah, sure. No, so is the only thing that you did that you tweeted at the school on Twitter something? Is that the extent of your actions?
With respect to alerting the school of his
Yes.
identity, yeah.
Well, learning the school of anything. Like, did you send an email to the school say like,
No.
"Hey, this guy says crazy shit online"?
I actually can't remember. I don't think I sent any email. I think it was just a tweet.
It was just the one tweet. And
I'm pretty sure I didn't email anybody because I don't know who I would have even emailed, and I think I would
Right.
remember that. It's been like 2 years. It's been like 2 years, right? Yeah. It's been
And
about
was
2 years.
it like a reply to something, or did you just say at whatever the school is? Don't say it. At whatever school. Hey, this guy is a
I could
lecturer at your
be.
school. And he says
I could
crazy
be. I could be mistaken. But I think I was replying to a post of an article. But I don't quote me on that because I could be wrong. I may have like just tweeted at them directly. But I had a couple of students reach out to me and tell me about this. And that's how I became aware of the stuff
Okay.
happening at the University of Surrey, which is where this whole took place. It's fine now. He's
So
not
maybe
there anymore.
yeah. So it could be not fair at all for him to categorize you as the person that got him.
Oh, not just that. He's actually agreed. I got him. Yeah. Because he claimed that I had threatened the distributist's family. It was
What's that based off of?
Dave the distributist is a very strange and insane man.
He's
what
been
actually,
on the show twice.
yeah, he's a nutball. So what actually? So
I'm
anyways,
sorry,
so
what were you saying?
okay. There's two parts to this story. It's very quick though. So he agreed that this was beyond the pale, and so we agreed. Okay, we're just gonna look. You're gonna
But you
retract
agreed what was
this.
beyond the
You're
pale.
gonna retract this, and we're just gonna call it even, and we're just gonna not interact anymore going forward, or we're trying to interact positively. And so he agreed to a statement that I gave to him. He read it
This
out.
is with Dave or Academic Agent?
Academic
just to be
agent.
clear.
But
Okay.
he was quoting Dave as saying I had threatened his family. So what actually had happened was somebody in, and this is where I become really resentful about that claim. So what actually happened was somebody in my comments under critiques of the distributist's videos was doxing him and accusing him of sexual assault. I had no way to confirm the account, obviously, but I hid the person from my comments because not knowing the details, I know this guy has a family and a kid. I did not want this person doxxed, especially since he hadn't been doing what the academic agent did. He hadn't been leveraging his institutional persona to bolster his.
Also,
channel,
that's a
vice
massive
versa.
claim to. Like,
It is also a
Yeah,
massive
of
claim.
course,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So I hid those. And then I went to Dave and I said, hey, just a heads up, like you should do some scrubbing because somebody was telling me your docs, and I checked it and it seems accurate. So you're gonna want to like batten down the hatches and make sure that like
and
you
he
know your
interpreted
personal.
like the mafia. Like
he
it'd be a shame
interpreted
if
that
something
as a
happened to you,
threat.
docs, Dave.
I think he wanted to interpret it that way because he was very resentful towards me. Given
Well,
our-
could have been
Did
like
you
a,
did
like a
you learn a
mistake,
valuable
right? Could have been
lesson?
innocent.
Did you learn a valuable lesson, President Sunday?
Uh, no.
I'm guessing that you didn't learn that valuable lesson.
What was the lesson, Adam? I'm not
What's the
sure.
lesson?
Well, I'm thinking because this came up again. You did that video on not so erudite, and I mean, I was thinking, Sunday, what are you doing to yourself? Like you don't want
Well,
to.
these aren't the same at all.
Yeah, but perception is everything. You're going to get a reputation as a doxer.
No, I don't.
Like what?
Kyla literally introduced herself when she started her public persona under her actual name and started like citing her credentials.
Look,
and
can.
Well, no, it wouldn't be the. I think it'd be the whole. trying to get
even
someone in
she
trouble with
agreed
their
in her
job
response
thing.
video. Even she insisted that it wasn't doxing.
The
Like,
valuable
there's
valuable
nobody-
lesson that you should have learned from the Dave incident is that you should just stay the fuck out of it because people are going to misinterpret what you're trying to do.
Mhm.
That's I am not setting my
And that's
boundaries
the lesson that
according
you-
to what the
that's
distributors
the
will
There
interpret
you
correctly or not.
Okay.
Well, I'm not talking about what the Well, I am.
Look, I take your point.
Obviously,
Choose your
that-
battles, but these are not
Okay.
analogous.
There you go. Listen,
Okay.
Dave. If you're listening, President Sunday said it was a misunderstanding. He meant it, and he was being
Dave-
sincere. He wanted
Dave
you
is-
to watch out. Okay.
Look, Dave is not going to believe.
I know
that
Dave is not
anyway.
listening. That's fine.
Well, no, even if Dave hears that, he's not going to believe it.
What's
so.
your what's your position on the whole NRX thing? You guys like Moldbug?
dumb.
We've literally spent like hours and hours, tens of hours, debunking Molberg.
Really?
Well, we had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
we
what did you
had,
call him? You didn't just.
Molberg.
Marvin Molberg. Molberg is what we call him.
Marvin Yarvin. No, like we had Short Fat Talk on a couple times, and he would read through the chapters, and we'd kind of make fun of it for like 10 hours. So no, we're
Yeah.
not. We've had conversations.
Apparently, there's
with
a hard
NRX
copy.
people, and we've
They've got
debated
it.
NRX people. So
They've
we're
got
not-
a what is it called again? Unqualified reservations. That's in print now. They have a hard copy. I almost want to get it as a souvenir.
We use Slate Star Codex. Slate Star Codex has a huge debunking of all the stuff in.
I've read a little bit of Slate Star Codex's stuff. They verge from like kookish. I can't remember exactly what. To actually, sometimes very good. It's a weird mixed bag.
Mhm.
But we've debated NRX people. We tried to set up a debate with. We call him Quackademic Agent now. That's his moniker on the channel. So, but he would not come on. We did a live stream where we were making.
I prefer
fun of a video.
Alcoholics Anonymous because it kind of works.
There you go.
Oh yeah, we did a live stream on one of Quackademic Agent's videos, and he turned up in the chat, and he was just screeching, and we invited him on,
Did he come on?
and
No.
no, he
Aw,
wouldn't come on. He
that's
wouldn't
good.
come on. He was making excuses, whether or not those were true or not.
was
he
his,
was like, my
he was-
mic is out at the shop being repaired or something.
It was his video where he was complaining about men liking tomboy abs on women.
But
What's your position on that, by the way? Because I think he's insane, especially like
probably
that
am. I
particular
would
drawing.
agree
Like
with
she's
you on
she's a
that,
10
yes.
clearly.
Yes, that woman was pretty hot. So
Gay.
yeah. Well, he's big into Evola. He kept quoting Evola, who I don't know if you're super familiar with Evola. He's like super. He self-ID'd as the super
I
fascist.
have I
so-
randomly I don't know why, but I have a copy of Volume 2 of what is it, the something of magic
Oh yeah.
study of I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
Evola's
Yeah, he
weird.
wouldn't come on. So we had some big blow up. He said that he reneged on it, but he said that anyone that showed up on our stream couldn't show up on his stream. But then he's since gone back on that.
Wait, you didn't tell me this before, so I can't go on his stream now. So
You
I'm
can't
just
go on his
fucked.
stream. Well, no, he's gone back on it because because he said that I think primarily at Sargon, and then Sargon immediately went on our stream, and then he didn't ban Sargon from talking to him. So obviously, this all happened like a year. or two ago.
Sargon was trying to talk Quack into coming on our stream.
Was he really?
Yeah,
Oh,
of
I don't know if
course.
he was.
Well, no, he told me he was trying to talk.
Oh,
him into
okay,
it. He was like, everyone just needs to grow up and talk. Yeah,
Well, we tried.
yeah. Well, he's afraid you're gonna hit him with all
Be
the Jewish
mean to him?
question stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
But he's afraid that you're going to.
Has Sargon gone that route? He's still buddy with academic agent.
They're friendly. I don't think Sargon's on the. I don't believe he's the Jewish question. He doesn't seem to be going that route in my
Sargon
estimation.
doesn't seem like an anti-Semite. We've had
Yeah,
Sargon
I
on the
don't
show a
think
bunch
so.
of times. Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh, that's good.
that is good.
yeah, obviously. So, yes, and we've had Dave on a couple times. Dave actually argues somewhat like you, President Sunday.
Really, that's
It's very hard-
that's the
very
dirtiest
hard-
insult I've received all week.
Actually, I would say no. They argue differently. So I
Okay.
think President Sunday does the deconstruction thing a lot, which obviously President Sunday doesn't agree with that characterization. And Dave does a thing where he just refuses to accept any framing you put forward and reframes everything you say in a way that's more favorable.
Oh,
to
that's
him.
true. Yeah, that's a good counterpoint. Yes.
Dave's an idiot. That's all I have to, there's
Oh, well, there you go.
I don't
have you debated him? Have you talked to him or?
years ago.
Okay.
I was much less sophisticated then. And I was trying to be friendly at the time. So our falling out essentially happened when I was criticizing the academic agent on a video about he was criticizing the Civil Rights Act, and I was criticizing the academic agent's video for that. And Dave immediately that night called me into a Skype call, and he was just he was like literally screaming to the point where his mic was peaking. It's like
Privately.
Sunday, what are you doing? And he was really mad because it was against right-wing networking, and eventually we ended up having a weird, completely out of left field argument where he was going like, well what do you think? Would you have this attitude towards like Jared Taylor? I was like, yeah.
Wait,
So
you were never on the right though, right? Right? You were
I
always
was.
been-
Are you kidding?
Oh, you were? I don't know. I don't know.
I
the
got my
background.
initial boost because I was doing critiques of rationality rules from a Christian vantage point. Dave gave me gave my video a link, and I got my first few hundred subscribers.
So wait, when did you change? How did you change?
Slowly over the course of a few years. So I think so when I was in university, I was one of those people who got into like a lot of political fights against the overbearing SJWs and whatnot. And
It used to be based. Yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Was
and so
thinking the
so
same
one of
thing.
my strategies was to actually start to read the literature of the enemy, and to go into classes that seemed to be coded that way. So I took one on speech and harm, for example, which actually ended up being very good. I have the textbook for it still, and I still use it. And as a consequence, I ended up educating myself into being more critical of my original positions, and I ended up sort of adjusting my politics as I sort of taught myself to kind of outmaneuver the people in that space. So it's one of the reasons why I mean, like, look at me. Do I have like a lefty aesthetic? I'm like your typical pretentious autistic philosophy book club channel type.
That's like an
thing going
older
on.
lefty
No, it's not.
aesthetic.
No, it's not.
Yeah, like the
Yeah, maybe you're Foucault, but before YouTube.
yeah, that's what I was referring to. Like the lefty college professor, with all the
Yeah,
So
but
you used to
that's
be-
but like the whole like
not
dirtbag
like the
left thing was
bisexual lighting.
gross to
Yeah,
me.
sure.
Yeah,
I
if you
understand what you're
look at my earliest coverage of Vosh, my first video covering him is based on his debate with Sargon of Akkad, and I was critical of him and
That was on
his
this
thoughts on
stream.
the appalling Vosh, and I have his face juxtaposed over Chris Walker from Outlast.
Nice.
We did that debate. That was our debate.
Yeah,
So wait, you went to college and you were based in Red Pilled, and then you got indoctrinated with the woke mind virus by your college professor. You became a
No, by
lefty.
myself. My college
I
professors were
hope she
shit at
was
it.
hot.
In fact, I
Oh,
was
okay.
one of them actually really was, but I was fighting. I
It all
was
starting to make sense.
I was no, she hated me. She probably actually is responsible for torching my my applications later on.
Oh no.
But no, I was fighting with them in particular. No, what ended up happening, I think actually the original turn was I started trying to undercut um, the philosophical presuppositions of a class on indigenous politics by pointing out that like a lot of these categories that are being used to assert the dignity and complexity and whatever of indigenous political structures are actually downstream from, you know, Greek and Roman political concepts and categories. So you're overlaying in the process of trying to make a case for the viability and the importance of maintaining things like indigenous sovereignty and so forth. You were actually reconstructing them as a European style entity and completely burying the actual thing. That was my tactic. It was a really slimy concern troll move.
Hmm.
And as a consequence of that, I started actually doing like a lot of research by way of Hannah Arendt into people like Fustel de Collage and then to other people into the origins of our political concepts. I was also interested in religious politics at the time because, of course, I was like a politically active student who was religious. And I started looking into those as well. And as a consequence, though, by way of doing that, I ended up recognizing, hey, wait a minute. Hang on a sec. There's something not right here. I'm pinpointing the contingent factors that give rise to this thing, but I'm still insisting on these things being simply sort of a given in order to hold my initial position that is motivating me to want to critique these things in the first place. And so that started setting me on a course of being a lot more critical of a lot of the motives that made me right wing in the first place. As well as like other things, like as a consequence of being in like a university setting, I ended up interacting with people who weren't conservative, who weren't religious. I ended up getting a lot of empathy,
Are you still religious now?
in a sense. So I'm not religious in the sense of being like when somebody says religious, that can mean a number of different things. Some people
Are
might
you? Do you
define
believe in God? I guess.
it's a possibility. I don't disbelieve in God.
Well, it sounds like you're saying you're agnostic, sort of.
Well, sort of, yeah, but I think even that's a little bit tricky because I'm pursuant to or consistent with what I was just saying. Like I'm very, very, very picky about the baggage that certain terms come with. So when I say agnostic, I don't mean I'm agnostic between a Richard Dawkins atheism and a William Lane Craig theism, right? When I say agnostic, I'm actually agnostic about even the what it even means to assert that there is a God, given that we are talking about something that in some sense must proceed and exist outside of the very human limitations of our perception, even outside of space and time in terms of these being extensions of human experience. What does it mean
Jesus
to what does it
fucking
mean
Christ,
what does it mean to think about a
Come
thing?
on.
No, but
Everything doesn't have to be deconstructed to
no,
such
I'm
a
not.
level.
Well, I'm actually not deconstructing. This is the Kantian insight. So when you're looking at me on the screen, you're
Yeah.
seeing me move in time, and you're perceiving me as something that occupies space. You can't get behind that. This is a condition of your experience and a condition of your thought. And so if we're talking about something that pre-exists these or exists outside of these, we actually lack the tools to conceptualize. And if we are conceptualizing it, we're actually engaging in a kind of idolatry. We are erecting a thing in the world that is not actually representative of what we're trying to get at.
Yeah, have you read Donald Hoffman's Hologram? What's the name of that book, Adam? The Hologram Theory or whatever?
The most based name ever. The Case Against Reality.
Yeah. Is
Isn't
that kinda
that
what you're...
that's an amazing title for a book?
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I Critique of Pure Reason already did it, but that's cool.
Mhm. Is that what you're alluding to? Sort of like this, we're not really
Pure
perceiving
reason
something.
and reality.
We don't know that what we're perceiving is
night and
real.
day.
Well, no, because
necessarily. It's
well, no,
icons
no.
of evolved processes.
Well, no, because what Kant's
How
doing.
many people care about reality and how many people care about pure reason? I would
So-
argue it's like heavily weighted towards the reality.
No, but what Kant is doing is he's trying to argue that we cannot get via pure reason to things that pre-exist, whatever this is taken to mean. Because once again, these concepts and categories, things like they're going to be downstream from our experience. We cannot get at things like
You got to look into Donald Hoffman because I mean his theory is way better than Kant. But go ahead, continue.
So we can't get at these things by way of reasoning alone. So Thomas Aquinas is going to like try to get at eternal law and things of that sort. Kant's going to say, well, slow down. You actually don't have an experiential basis for even referring to these things at all. You are onboarding, you are taking elements of human experience and you are projecting them out onto a hypothetical meta realm that seems to abide by the same rules as our realm, just sort of impoverished.
Right.
You're not actually getting at metaphysics.
Right.
You're just postulating a fiction that's operating as kind of black box, sort of justifying really pretentious claims about the nature of the physical world. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. How could we as finite beings make determinations about some infinite extra dimensional space that we would have no understanding of existing in? We can't just apply our rules to that space. So, yeah, sure.
Well, I mean, you're even characterizing it as. Well, think about what you're doing in that very sentence. You're even characterizing it as a space. You're thinking in spatial terms.
Well, I have to use a word. To
exactly, you have
idea.
to.
Yeah,
so you can't get there. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. No, I understand, and I agree with that idea. In terms of I think a lot of people are egotistical to some extent when they talk about God and religion for that reason. But though I guess the counter argument is sort of you would assume, and maybe this is wrong, I'm not saying I agree with this, but would be to assume that if God created a universe and the creation would be created in some way that would have something to do with God's nature, and thus we would be able to derive some value from ourselves that could
think about it,
be projected onto God.
Yeah, let's think about this statement for a second. God created the universe. Well, God pre-exists time, so God is timeless, right?
Right.
At what point did he create the universe? At what point does time initiate at some point in the creation of the universe? Is this like an act? Do acts take place in time? Well, it's not just that we don't understand that. I'm not even sure, like, the conjecture. Like you may pose this, and a lot of apologists do. You may pose this as a question of like, well, how do we understand how God created the universe? See, I almost take that as an absurd statement by itself that belies, like even the question itself is sort of self-refuting, because the conditions of the question are also what's supposed to be in the conclusion. How does God create time? Well, create is an act in time.
Right.
You can't. Right. Yeah. So it's.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. If we're wired to perceive time in this linear fashion, like we can't even conceive of a pre-time. What would that even mean? How could we?
Well, not even just perceiving time in a linear fashion. Like, is time outside of human experience an actual dimension of being? Like that might not be true.
Well, I thought they're pretty confident that it is. I thought that was part of
Well,
Donald Hoffman argues against that, but
we once again, like, so from our human vantage point, like, we seem to perceive things in sequence, but that doesn't mean that from some specie aeternitatis or from some fictional vantage point of the universe that therefore there actually is a sequence where the now is privileged in some ontological sense over the before.
Well, no, right, but what it means is that however we're experiencing reality in the fashion that we're experiencing it, if we're able to use calculus, use math, use all these determinations that kind of predict things, and they seem to predict them successfully, that means that however we're perceiving reality, these are the rules that we're creating to describe these things seem to be working correctly. Now, whether that exists outside of our limited perception of reality is I guess another question entirely, but it has to exist somehow in some extent outside of ourselves.
Well,
unless we're all
well, this would be
tricked by a demon somewhere.
Well, you're going a little bit into Hegelian territory, where the bare point of contact between a postulated thing out there in the world and your experience and your discourse about it, like, that is a point of contact between the two. And as like it gets really complicated, but you never actually overcome that epistemic issue where the only way we can describe God is going to be in terms that are germane to our experience and cognition, but we're talking about the conditions of our experience and cognition, so it doesn't work because we're arguing effectively in a circle.
Right. I'm not talking about in terms of God. I'm talking about like in terms of if they use calculations to put a satellite in orbit and it works, that obviously tells us that whatever the rules they're applying affects nature or reality to some.
Yeah. So this is what someone like William Sellers. Yeah, it's William Sellers. Wilfrid Sellers, sorry, my brain's not working today. This is what someone like Wilfrid Sellers will call the retail level. So our theories and whatnot even if they are ultimately proved incorrect, there is still a space in which they can nonetheless work. Like a physics system that doesn't actually accurately describe the universe fully understood may nonetheless be functional enough to get us onto like floating on the ocean. It might get us to like weather resistant houses. It might get us even into space. Like it's
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have a grand unified theory, so it's obviously getting us in a lot of places without us really fully understanding everything. So that's definitely true. When you were a right winger, were you just like a right winger? You weren't like a a race realist or anything.
I was never a race realist.
Because I'm assuming that's where your contention with the Quack civil rights video came up. You're like, what the fuck?
Yes, with that's the principal thing, because up until that point, I was under the impression that we were sort of roughly on side, not with the academic agent, because he was a quack before then. His take on Rousseau was garbage. That was my initial issue with him. Rousseau is like very right wing by modern standards. By the way, it's actually very strange that people are so hostile towards him. You essentially can't get fascism without the Rousseauian intervention on Hobbesian contractarianism. But that was the initial point of real friction between me and the academic agent, because before then we had like theoretical disputes, and it was annoying that he was obtuse, but I didn't realize that he was so wedded to the idea that black people were violent and inferior to white people. There was a side of him I didn't know at the time.
Right. What year was this? Remember? Was this a long time ago?
When did I start my channel? Was it like 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Okay.
There's a video. What is it called? The American Delusion or something like that.
Yeah, it's just literally statistics
oh my
of like
God.
like bad statistics for black people. Essentially, the video.
It's
very,
so bad.
Very racist. Yeah.
As soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, Quack is not coming on our channel anymore. It's like, this is too far.
This is academic agent, huh?
Yeah.
Let's see.
It wasn't
here.
as bad as his video where he was trying to say slavery wasn't actually that bad. So he's got a host of these videos.
Hang on, give me a sec. I can find the exact year.
Well, I'm just curious because people were saying, like, I'm curious when the switch occurred.
Oh, this was 3 years ago. Damn.
Okay.
This would have been
2020.
Yeah, this would have been 2019, August of 2019. So I think that would have happened maybe a month after that, because I had a debate with him about democracy and yeah.
Well, I know, like, when we talked to Distributus, he was very hostile to the civil rights movement because his big argument is that it's a violation of, personal sovereignty and the right to who you can interact with. And so I'm assuming that was kind of what he was channeling when he was yelling at you about.
I wish, like that at the very least to be somewhat of an interesting philosophical conversation. Like, at what point does like the need for a society to accurately represent the interests of all of its citizens run against like the promise of certain levels of autonomy and freedom and freedom of association, things like that. That's I mean, like it's not that sophisticated, but it's nonetheless, you can have a conversation about that. The issue with him was practically, politically. Engaging in this critique was destructive to the right-wing coalition he wanted to build.
I see.
He man thinks he's Dick Cheney or something. I don't know.
You're like, we're not on the same side if you're a race realist.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think's happening here. I don't know if Dave is, but Quack definitely is. So.
No, Dave is very. I would say Dave is probably worse than the academic agent. My read on the academic agent is that because I don't think the academic agent's positions are honestly held. I think he perceives a growing market, or perceived a growing market, because Sargon was even onboarding.
No, you're way off.
Stuff.
I've seen so many people have sent me so many of his like schizophrenic postings about the JQ. He's a real.
But what year are those from?
I don't
like
know,
2 years ago.
Okay,
so so 3 years ago, I was paying a lot of attention.
Okay, seriously.
Yeah. So he had what was his name? The Jacob Green River guy or something. He was networking with a lot of right-wing communities, and he started to sort of pander to them. So among other things, at a certain point, he started switching from being a libertarian anti-Brexit to being pro-Brexit, then to being starting using like NRX language, and then starting to sort of like throw out little dog whistles towards like anti-Semitism and anti-immigration stuff. And how this is corresponded directly to him networking with other channels that had those positions. So I take him to be an entirely cynical actor. Like he maybe doesn't disbelieve them enough for it to be a meaningful distinction, but I think that the economic advantage of in those instances abiding by those positions sort of overrides what he actually believes. I think he's more of a cynical person. I think Dave, by contrast, I think Dave actually believes this stuff, is very insecure about the fact that he really can't keep up with a lot of people who are sort of like engaged in this material, and where somebody else might go, okay, I need to read up on this stuff and get good, so to speak. He just whinges about it. And talks about how the academy is clearly just slanted against him because it doesn't accept him as for the intellectual titan that he is.
Well, the amount of Evola and all these other stuff that Quack has read, I mean, that's a he's really dedicated to
Oh
grift.
shoot, sorry, I realized why
I
my
don't
gain
believe it.
wasn't going down. I was turning the volume dial. Sorry, I'm a fucking idiot. Continue. Is that better?
That's much better, yeah.
Oh my god. All right. Sorry.
Okay. But no, I'm saying like the amount of Evola that Quack reads and recommends, and I mean he's I don't think it's a grift. I think I mean maybe it started as some grift, or maybe he became kind of like those, oh, it's convenient that you're financially motivated in some direction. You kind of convince yourself.
I think it
But
was always
by
a
now
grift.
he's a true believer in all those stuff.
I at a certain point, like,
or Dave is in the chat to distribute us. Just so
Hey,
you guys
what's up,
know.
Dave?
hey Dave, fuck
Sunday's talking a lot of shit about you.
you.
Yeah, that's
you're-
that's what he said. Somebody sent him this video, obviously, as soon as we started talking about him. So
Yeah, he's like right wing Homer Simpson. So I think the academic agent was actually a hack long before then.
Okay.
Like with the Rousseau thing, the thing that annoyed me about the Rousseau thing was not that he was critical of Rousseau. A lot of people are critical of Rousseau. I'm critical of Rousseau. The thing that annoyed me was that he was getting him really, really wrong in order to pander to Sargon's audience. Sargon had made actually, did Sargon reply to this, or did Sargon say Rousseau was the problem? He might have replied to it. But this is like something he clearly had like zero knowledge of. He was not able to reproduce any of his arguments effectively. And I think the reason why I think he did what a lot of people on YouTube do, which is in order to like do as little work as possible to be as successful as fast as possible. If there's something that the average person is not super familiar with, and they can sort of position themselves as an expert, they'll just bullshit their way through. I think he's doing what School of Life does on the regular, just very poorly. And I think a lot of people are sort of like Dave. They're so desperate to have any kind of social support or validation that their standards just drop down to the earth's core as soon as somebody with any kind of following seems to be throwing them a bone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't think he was ever not a shill. I think probably he's where he is now is sort of where he will be till the end of time. And maybe that counts as true belief, but I would not put much weight on his sincerity in any case.
Distributor says that he said he's not going to debate you, but you absolutely did a Mafia Docs threat.
No, I didn't.
And that
I have the
I mean,
I have
this
the.
is his interpretation.
I think I might actually be able to just bring up the direct messages.
well, I mean, it would
Except
appear,
he's off. He was deleted from Twitter, so maybe not. But I probably have him saved somewhere.
It would appear both ways, either way. I mean, it'd be indistinguishable.
No, that's
Like-
that's silly. No. If somebody,
It's like the Trump phone call.
well, no, because what I would do in that case is I wouldn't hide the comments, right? I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I
that's
wouldn't.
true.
I wouldn't.
That's true.
I wouldn't hide the comments doxing him, and then tell him, hey, somebody is doxing you in my comments. I remove them, but you should batten down the hatches. You should check to
a
make
good
sure that you're not
point.
vulnerable.
It's a
I
good
said
point.
that. I said that to defend him because he had a kid, and I was being decent. So what
Yeah,
I'm going to
but
do
the
next
move-
time.
the
So
move-
next time, Dave, I'm not going to do a thing. I'm going to leave it there.
Mm.
Look, the move is not to look into it, though. I mean, that's where you messed up. I mean, I don't even want to know. I would just say, listen, I don't know if this is your real name or not, but someone's acting like it's your real name. And just like, why are you checking into it?
Well, I was checking into it to see if indeed somebody had found out who he was and was spreading it. So they're spreading it here. They're spreading it
Yeah,
elsewhere.
but that's why I'm like, you got to have a hands-off approach on this shit. You really do.
No. Because
I don't
if
know your
I'm,
name, President Sunday, I don't want to know your
oh
name.
no,
Okay?
sure. But if somebody gave you my name, And for whatever reason, you are so inclined to not want me to lose my anonymity, so I could get like hurt in terms of like my career and my ability to generate an income.
I wouldn't look into it. I would just.
But
I say, I don't know if this is your name or not, but someone's spreading it around.
Fair enough. I checked.
Yeah.
It's just how I do. So
yeah, that's where you messed up. That's what I said.
Well,
That's where
well,
you-
not necessarily.
face
Well, for
emoji, it
example,
could read
well,
a
hang
little
on.
ominous, so.
If somebody was flinging around a false name, if I determined that that name did not correspond to the distributor's actual identity, then I would allow them to continue to share it because that would actually protect his identity further. People would be misled to a different source, right?
I mean, you're just getting way too involved in this.
That's just how I do. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Who
Well,
cares, Adam?
it is what it is.
Who cares?
Look, he's a major helper.
Yes.
Anyway,
He also got got his ass blown out against Matt McManus. Completely. He was so
debate?
out of his depth. Oh yeah, you didn't see that? A couple days ago. It's really good. Well,
I don't even
I
know
mean,
who that
Matt's
is.
really good. The distributus is his usual meandering, nonsensical, bloviating self.
Wow.
But no, Matt took him to the woodshed. It was beautiful.
Oh my God.
It was deeply satisfying to see. Boring as all fuck, but satisfying.
Well, that's par for the course, I imagine. But I don't know who Matt is. Magnus.
It's been like
Liberal
3 hours. Are we
Democratic
cool to?
Socialist.
Am I cool to do my runaway routine?
we're not going to accuse you of that, so
Yeah.
don't worry.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
you've been very
Dave
generous.
was trying
with
to
your
send
time
me some
already.
message. I don't know how long it's gonna take. Kind of
Look, Sitch, why do you look after I tell you this about President Sunday spending too much time getting involved? Why are you getting involved in this?
This
Yeah,
is
Sitch.
drama. What are you talking about? This is good.
Who cares?
Dave wants to send me a counter argument to you, I believe, in a DM.
Like I said,
He
Eventually.
wants to
Look, I
send a
don't-
counter argument to
I
what?
don't. I
The
disagree with
doxing
President
thing, I
Sunday.
assume.
I disagree with President Sunday on virtually everything except for his claim that Dave is long-winded and meandering. I think he's right on the money there. I think that is completely accurate.
Uh-huh. CT said, please read my super chat to President Sunday.
Okay.
where is it?
All right, let's hear it.
Oh, someone.
I gotta
someone
pee though,
else-
so I can't promise I'll answer long.
Well, you can go pee and come back.
Yeah.
But I want to catch some sunshine after this. I literally okay. So
Read
this
the
is
super chat.
this
CT
is
says, just a heads up for President Sunday, the Discord link in your description does not work. I was trying to get that
oh
link.
fuck, sorry. No, I locked down a little while ago because we were getting a bunch of trolls in the server.
Oh,
And
I sent you.
I didn't update the
Right.
generic one that goes with every single new.
gotcha.
I sent you the link to Donald Hoffman's book to President Sunday. If you like all the stuff that you're talking about, which it seems like you do, like you're interested in, you should really read that book. It's
No,
fascinating. I got it.
I'll give it a look.
I got it, and I couldn't.
Well, you might not like it because it's kind of like Evo Psyche, so you might hate
No, I'm not opposed to Evo Psych. I'm opposed to how it's conducted. If he does good work,
Look,
he does
you
good work.
buy into
Fair enough.
evolution, right? You're not anti-evolution,
No,
right?
God no. In
Yeah,
fact,
of
this
course.
is why I'm saying like evolutionary psychology should be very interesting. The problem is that people in Evo Psych, and I've seen a lot of people do it.
He doesn't really even use it that much evolutionary psychology, Sitch. I mean,
Well,
the case
well,
against
well, his
reality.
argument is that we evolved to see things not how they are, but how they're useful to us, right?
Of course, yeah, that's the crux of his argument.
Right.
But
Someone
like,
else
he
asked,
says space time. He says space time is an illusion.
Right.
So,
well, quite literally an illusion.
yeah,
Well, actually, gets a little bit tricky. So Kant has a very interesting distinction between an illusion and a representation. That an illusion,
I thought you had to pee.
I do. I've got a.
Well, before you go, someone wanted to know.
Gotta-
They don't want to. They're not going to give your name. They said, "Were you in the Navy?" Because if you weren't, I knew someone that looked and sounded exactly like you.
Yes.
Oh wow.
You were in the Navy.
Yes.
Oh. So
yeah.
maybe this
yeah.
guy knows you.
I'm
There
lying,
you go.
but yes.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. So so it's your doppelganger.
I've been on a ferry a few times. Does that count?
I
I
Oh.
guess. Yeah.
I'm a
Crazy.
nautical man.
anyway.
I'm
Well, thanks for
taking it
coming
fair.
on. I guess I don't know if we're gonna.
What was the distributus question?
Did you? What was
he didn't-
CT's
he didn't
super
send me the
chat? Did you
DM
read
yet,
it?
so-
I don't know.
Was it a super chat or was it a message?
My DMs aren't closed, Dave. I can DM. My DMs are not closed. Question mark.
Let's wait for that, and then we'll go. I'll hold on till
Okay.
then. Okay.
It says, oh. I mean, I'm seeing him in my mentions. I don't know if you're seeing that. Stitch.
Yeah, you just. Yeah, I see it. I just sent him a DM.
Have you ever been in a play, President Sunday?
I have been in a play.
Well, Dave is saying you're a bad actor, so I guess he saw that play and he said, this guy fucking sucks.
I'm a fantastic actor, actually.
Sure, that's what all actors say.
Was that all? Was that it?
I was in a play. I was a zombie in a play. I didn't really have lines, but I.
He says a bad actor is bad mouthing me on Sitch and Adams.
Oh no! He's not bad like political actors saying that
The
I'm
DMs,
malicious.
the DMs are closed to these guys for some weird reason.
I just DM Dave. My DMs are not closed.
My DMs are not closed either. But
Yes. Give me the docs.
uh-oh.
He says, "Do you want the docs?" I want the docs.
Who wants
DOC,
the,
not
who wants
the
the
DOX.
docs? What?
The documents.
The documents.
This is just going to read. I'm sure it's going to be like it reads both ways, unless the email is something like, "I'm going to dox the shit out of you, motherfucker."
Okay, let me see. Okay, let me see if I can't find it. Just out of curiosity, it'd be fun to cap this off at least.
Okay.
Give me.
I have to
couple
pee
seconds.
too.
Well, why don't you go? Why don't you go pee and I'll
Okay, I'm gonna
be
go
I'll be
pee.
the.
Look, I'll
Dave
read
sends
some
me the
super
document.
chats. I'll read a super chat.
Adam will read the super chats.
Look, I know what's up. I know how to keep the show on the road here. Keep the show on the rolling. Let's listen to that Lady Gaga song.
No, they'll demonetize the whole stream for both of us. Why would you do that?
You're right. Never mind. Christian Baller for $2 says, "Sitch, go ahead and take the gloves off now." Look at that. Christian, what are you doing? Ostracy for $5 says, "Is the Sneeko redemption arc continuing?" I feel like it might be a little bit.
Sneeko
you have
redemption
a-
arc.
Yeah, Sneeko was going after the Red Pill guys. Did you see that?
No, I feel like
Black-
it's a bit late for him though.
It's never too late. It's never too late. Don't talk like that. Even Quackademic Agent could change his evil ways one day. Who knows?
Yeah,
He might find himself a nice Jewish girlfriend.
if
And
he has a stroke, he's married with a child.
no, he is.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
What if maybe his kid will marry a Jewish person or something, and he'll be forced to abandon his anti-Semitism. Blackout for $10 says, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter this debate." I thought it was President Sunday did a lot of sophistry, but other than that, I thought it was pretty good.
Okay. He sent me some screenshots.
Mhm.
DMs
did he?
between you and him.
All right.
Mhm.
Do I have your permission to read these DMs?
Sure, they're from years ago. I have no idea what's involved in
Okay.
them.
Oh, well, I assume it's about the thing.
This is the mafioso claim, right?
Yeah. Okay, so this is you saying, "Dave, I have a plausible account of you committing sexual harassment, your position at a university, and proof that you were deeply embedded in the planning of a white nationalist organization.
Yeah.
Let's stop being stupid for a moment. I am mulling my next move here, and I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm trying really hard, and you're making it difficult."
Oh, sorry.
That
That's with
doesn't
respect.
sound-
That's with respect to the sexual assault thing.
That doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
Why does distributors want us to read these? This
I
is
don't.
terrible.
I don't know.
Why are we
No,
signal
that was
boosting
President
these ac-
Sunday that just said that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but why
that
are we
was me
signal
who said that.
boosting accusations against
Because
Dave?
I don't know.
Because Dave is saying that reads to a threat to him. That's what he's saying.
Okay, so
I could see that.
yeah. So the context of that conversation. Let me see if I can actually find the whole thing so I can get the immediately preceding tweet. What was he called back then?
I don't know. His name's cut out. So
I guess if I just look up sexual assault, that should come up in my.
Look, guys, this is like
It might be
this
gone.
is so inappropriate. But
wait, why? I literally don't know what you're talking about, Adam. President Sunday made an accusation about distributors, and Distributors is saying, "Well, this is how I interpreted it," and he's giving his counter.
right, So
How? I don't understand why you're saying it's inappropriate.
well, now there's like a
'Cause
sexual
he's
assault
a
claim on
weenie.
the table.
But that was
Well,
always.
no one here is entertaining the idea that he actually sexually assaulted.
Yes, we're just talking about the context isn't whether the sexual assault happened. The context is was it reasonable for Dave to perceive this as a threat or as a legitimate? I'm just trying to warn you.
Mhm.
Right.
I would perceive it as a threat.
I'm just looking for. I'm seeing if I still have his conversation in here. It'll be under a deleted channel name because he was banned from Discord. So it's a toss
This
up.
is on
whether or not-
Twitter, so not Discord.
This
is
is on
this
Twitter.
made up or what is this?
Oh, it looks like no, it's a Twitter.
Okay, well he
mistaken
might have
identity
it.
or something.
He might have it. Well, actually, I wonder if I search for that
I
and
think it's a Twitter deal.
Where's the President Sunday redemption arc? This looks pretty bad.
Let's see.
And
Oh,
then
here we go. I
after-
found it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, looks like his comments are all gone. All right. So here's what I said. Here, I'll read it to you here. I'll send you a screenshot. But it seems like his comments to me are gone. So.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that. I guess that happens if your account gets deleted, maybe.
I think it does. Yeah.
So let me here. I'm gonna save this. Docs.
I'm
app.
looking for your super chat, Lucifer.
So here,
This
I'll send
phone.
this. I'll send this to you in. I don't have you on Discord, do I? Can I send this to you? Here,
Give it 20.
Adam. I'll send this to you in on Twitter.
Lucifer the Dub, or Lucid, is it Lucid Dreamer?
Send
Oh, I
it to
guess
me,
it's
don't send it
Lucid
to
Dreamer. Lucid
Just
Dreamer.
be advised. Don't read the quotes.
Oh, I'm not getting involved. Don't send this shit to me.
Send
I
it
don't
to
want to
me.
fucking.
Okay, well, I'll
I'll
put it on. I'll put it on screen then. Okay, and I'll
No,
alter it.
Just
no.
send
I'm
it to
gonna- I'm
me
gonna- hang on,
at
I'm gonna-
PSA_Sitch.
Okay, calm
Yeah,
down.
oh, Jesus
DMs are
Christ.
Calm down, Adam. I'm
Okay.
going to remove the part with his name,
Oh my God, no.
and I'm gonna put it on my screen, and I'll read it for you.
Lucid Dreamer for $10. This political and philosophical discourse is great and all, but what did President Sunday like and dislike about the Wheel of Time adaptation?
I didn't like that they artificially aged the characters. They added a bunch of like sex stuff, and they completely ruined the tone of the thing. It was awful.
I didn't see the Wheel of Time adaptation, so I don't know
it's
what it is.
terrible. So here,
Well, if you hate it, I might like it.
possibly if you don't like if you like bad things.
Adam
Wheel
does
of
have
Time
terrible taste
television
in like
series.
movies and stuff.
What's your favorite movie, President Sunday? Do you have a favorite movie?
My favorite movie.
I like Time Bandits. I mean,
Never heard of that.
how can you go wrong with six
Never
little
heard of
people
Time Bandits?
Okay,
Scary
so-
running
Young?
around?
So here we go. I'll read this out for you. This is what I sent to Dave. Be advised that someone is going around sharing your name. You could easily solve this by having your picture removed from your LinkedIn and university profile sites. Otherwise, I myself could not have made the connection. Also, there is a YouTube video still extant with your Twitter in the description. I wasn't going to try and dox you. I was warning you, so he must have been like accusing me at this point. I was trying to warn you so you could take measures to protect yourself. Well, while I have you, what is your take on this? And then the message sent runs as follows.
What
I
is your,
crossed out
what
his
is your
name.
take on this? What is
Yes,
this?
so,
you doxing him?
Yeah, so, well, this is actually referring to a video by Distribute's wife. He said, "You're so-and-so's wife. I sent you a Facebook message warning you about how he sexually battered me. I have PTSD as a result of this, of his and the physical and sexual abuse of others. Yes, repeatedly yanking my breasts in an effort to compel me to leave our group of toxic quote-unquote friends. Instead of just telling me to leave his sexual battery, David and you responded to my message by blocking me. And I asked him a question. Is Stalker a liar, is my question. That's what I said afterwards. And then afterwards, I was like asking, can you like, give me some peace of mind about this? Am I blocking someone who is slandering you, or am I blocking someone who is actually like harassed by you? And am I doing something bad in this context? That was the full extent of that.
Because okay, so the first part that you read doesn't sound like a threat, but the second part that Dave sent me does sound like a threat. So what
Can you
was
read
the
that again?
context of that? Dave, I have a plausible account of you committing sexual harassment.
Oh yeah.
in
So it
position-
would have So it would have happened here actually. I think
Yeah.
I can actually just. Oh, great, because I had it on Discord. I think. Wait, where'd it go? Fuck, I had it. I just had it.
Oh, this is just terrible stream.
Jesus Christ. No, wait. It was on Twitter.
I
That was a
love
Twitter
this.
thing I was reading.
Let's
Okay.
go for 2 hours while someone looks for a link on Discord.
Yes.
I feel like I'm on a Destiny stream now.
Fondue for $5 says the real question is if Sunday's comments gave justification for Distributors to karate chokehold President Sunday.
Yeah.
There you go. True.
And if he did, President Sunday, would you fake him out like you were passed out and then punch him in the face, or would you just like
What?
comply?
I wasn't following that. What were you
Don't
saying?
worry about it.
Yeah. It's just
Okay, anyway, sorry. So we're not going to search for this. So what would have happened in between then and the statement that you read out?
Yeah.
Is he would have been, taking umbrage at me even mentioning the docs and then asking the question, and then I'm literally like asking like, hey, Dave, so I've got an account here that is saying you did this thing. This is a weird reply. Can you explain? Yeah. And at that point, like, I am mulling my next move, because if it is indeed the case that he sexually assaulted someone, I'm not going to spread the docs, but it might change whether or not I delete the docs, right? Which I did.
Right. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So,
Okay. Well,
I mean,
there you go.
I mean, well done, Dave. You've now signal boosted that to the world at large.
Yeah.
Big brain on Dave here. Are we done?
Okay. I guess we're done. Yeah.
All right. Nice chat, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks for coming on.
Take care, man.
Ciao.
That was an interesting conclusion.
What is it?
That was an interesting
know.
conclusion.
All right. I want to turn that off. All right, I'm going to run to the washroom quick, and I'm going to pop into... I'm going to see if the Whick panel's still going. Probably not. I think we're like... They're like an hour and 43 minutes in. Maybe I could get in on that. I'll be right back, and we'll see what's going on, okay? Hidey ho. All right, let's see if we can't get in on this thing. I don't even know if it's still going on.
It is. I'm waiting to get in as well, Mr. President, and
Oh.
yell at the moderates.
Hey, you're on stream, just a heads up.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
Okay, well then I'll keep all my salacious commentary and all the Whick picks to myself until we're off stream.
Well, you can send it to me privately.
Oh, okay, that's true. Your DMs aren't public right now?
Well, depends on how interesting they get.
So, did you have a... I see that you were on a panel earlier.
I was talking to Whick and... not Whick, Adam and Sitch a little bit earlier.
You were talking to who?
You know Adam and Sitch?
Adam and Sitch, yeah. Yep, I
those
sure
two.
do. How did that go?
Oh, about as you'd expect.
Adam, I follow him on Twitter. He is much more digestible to me than Sitch. Sitch, if I understand correctly, is the more conservative of the two.
Really? Yeah, I can kind of see that.
Yeah.
It was kind of hard to tell. Adam, as usual, got kind of sidelined in the conversation. Sitch is kind of a bonehead.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a staunch defender of Jordan Peterson. He and I went back and forth. I'm sorry?
Still, huh?
I don't know if he is still, but I remember a couple of months ago he and I went back and forth on Twitter because I'm not sure if you're familiar with he's a content creator by the name of Cody Johnston, and he runs a channel called Some More News on YouTube. You familiar with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it's great content. Anyway, he put out this like 2.5-hour polemic against Jordan Peterson, which was phenomenal. And Sitch, I guess, took umbrage with it and has been dogging Cody Johnson on Twitter for months, trying to engage with him, particularly on Jordan Peterson's IQ takes, particularly on the claim that the United States military had IQ requirements, which of course it never did. And so anyway, he kept persistently making that claim, and so then I responded to him on Twitter, and we went back and forth. But I got the vibe that he was definitely the more right wing of the two.
Fair enough. I feel like there's a threshold beyond which it's a distinction without a difference, but yeah.
Well, I think there's some things that Sitch said. Okay, so like one, for example, which my understanding is you're Canadian, so I'm not sure how much you follow American politics, but there's a Republican presidential candidate who's definitely not going to win. His name is Vivek Ramaswamy. And he's proposing raising the voting age from 18 to 25, of course, because the Gen Z demographic is going against Republicans. And Adam Friended, that's what his name is on Twitter, I guess. He was like staunchly opposed to that. He was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. Number one, it is philosophically a bad idea. It's just a bad idea, period. But also it's poor politics. And so like he was railing against that pretty consistently. So he seemed to be, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I feel like Sitch is one of those people who's just smart enough to be wrong in a grander way. It's not always an advantage to be quick on your feet. Sometimes.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to watching the whole stream that you did. Did it last this entire time, for the last 2.5 hours?
Longer than that. I have to. It was actually closer to 3 hours, but I accidentally posted my stream key on screen because I was trying to copy and paste a link, and for some reason that was prioritized on my clipboard. So.
Gotcha.
I had to redo the stream so somebody couldn't hijack it. It was really frustrating.
Oh shit! Are you gonna like upload it as a VOD to your channel, or is it still a VOD at the moment?
I'm gonna leave. I'll upload the VODs to my archive channel, but I'm gonna edit the two together so it's
perfect.
Just one conversation. Yeah.
So I take it you have not had any chance to listen to this Whick stream.
No.
Then
What am I looking forward to here?
Kind of all over the place right now. The tangent was, at least before I started talking to you, and then I muted their volume. But they were talking about cop killing, whether or not it's good to advocate for
I see.
The killing of cops. So it's like spiraled off into the most
no,
TOS.
it's not good to advocate for the killing of cops.
Yeah, right.
I know.
Yeah. So
coming in with the hard take here.
Yeah. There again, you want to talk about a philosophically and politically bad take to have. So,
Okay.
But before that, I mean, so like my when I get in there, I definitely want to talk to Sonsel and Lonerbox in particular, because he kind of surprised me in this conversation, because I think he's relatively progressive, at least that's my experience with him. And I think I don't know if he volunteered for this or he was kind of pigeonholed, but he definitely took up more of the defense of moderates in this conversation. And I just have some probing questions for him.
In what way? Like, what was he defending in particular?
So,
Like I mean, like the name of the panel is moderates Cringer based. Originally, it was our centrist bad people or something. It wasn't moderates Cringer based, and that's like moderates Cringer based is a much more difficult. I don't know how to pin that down. Like a moderate approach should, in theory, refer to like a middle of the road or a balanced approach to some issue, and that can sometimes be like the most prudent one. But if we're talking about people who identify as moderates, whilst bolstering what is actually from a really neutral position, an extreme stance, then they're not really moderates at all. That's just a label. Like, it's the difference between being someone who's advocating for a compromise between two extremes who have to live with each other, and somebody who's characterized
We're about to get roped in. Hang on one second.
Sure.
Yep, we're about to be roped in.
Sweet.
Gonna demand that Whick tell Lonerbox to stay so we can interrogate him. Demand that Lonerbox.
I don't even know what he was saying, so I actually have nothing to say to him in this conversation potentially.
Well, I'm sure he'll provide some fodder for you along the way.
He's a hack fraud. He's not even a real box. Where'd you get that haircut? That's a cool haircut.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. This is my post-gym haircut, where it's just all sweat. Jesus, Ansel, why are you yelling, my man?
Is he yelling?
Yes. He's very animated.
Soinsol.
Wait, hold on. Why did I get pulled out?
I don't know, but we just name dropped you. Like, why are you yelling,
Sunday,
my man?
Listen, Sunday, I actually think that it would be really fun to talk to you about this, because I think that you're actually more capable of talking about, like, you know, the actual topic at hand.
Oh, it's that bad, huh? Is that what we're getting into? Is it just
Sunday? Did you hear what they were saying?
No, I just came out of an Adam and Sitch conversation. It can't be nearly as bad as that.
We started off talking about progressives, progressive versus moderates, and like the entire second half of the panel was just them saying, yes, we should unironically be murdering police in the streets, because that's what
Oh, they got him.
Hello.
Hello.
What's up, everybody?
You're live, okay? I'm going to find a GoFundMe link for Joe Lewis, and while I do, but have you guys been listening? Have you guys been, have your ear on all this?
No, I haven't heard a single thing about this, so I'm coming into this fresh.
Yeah, I was listening mostly along the way, so.
This is a cardigan, sir.
Hello, President.
Sorry, I'm just messing.
Mr. or Madam President, whichever one you want.
Oh, he must be addressed as Mr. President. Protocol dictates.
Monsieur Presidente.
Okay, I'm putting the GoFundMe link in the YouTube and the Twitch chat, so if you're interested.
What's the GoFundMe for?
For Joe Lewis. Joe Lewis recently was let go.
That's nice of you.
Employment. And so we try to help people out when we can, right?
Yeah, but why does it say GoFundMe.com/WickTV? What's going on with that, Wick?
It does not, I promise you. But if you want
You were trying to pull a fast one on
if
us.
you
If
want to
anybody
check
can
it
help
out,
me out too, I am also unemployed as well.
if you want to put your links, that's cool. I will say this: it's been a wild ride. So I guess I'll ask.
We had a hell of a.
Oh, very, very quickly. So we were randomly blessed with Sonsol's presence in the backstage. Was he booted for some reason?
He had to go.
He
No,
didn't.
he
He didn't
had to
think
go
that.
with
He thought he was very
your
perplexed.
That was very ambiguously phrased by Whick, though. He didn't say he left voluntarily.
No,
he just said he had to go.
He told me he had a hard cap at 8. It was 8.
Okay, I approve of this.
He told me his cap was 7. He lied to one of us.
He got the Sun Soul got the void. It's fine. Move on.
So yeah, apparently Whick was just going on an unhinged rant about how we have to kill all the police.
Lesson Cell for $5 says, "Is Wick pulling his Keffels with the GoFundMe?" It's not even my GoFundMe. It's not even.
I shouldn't have said that. This is how rumors get started.
Like,
my bad.
Look, seriously, Joe Louis needs help. Give some money to him.
Yeah, come on, give some money to your boy.
Okay. Anyway, regardless, so we are on. I guess I'll just ask Pondering to start. You had some issues for Loner and for Ancom specifically. Go ahead.
Well,
You can
Loner and Sonsol, but Sonsol's not here, and it's more questions for Sonsol because obviously he and Sonsol are the two that I'm familiar with, and I've interacted with Sonsol before. My understanding was that Sonsol was more centrist, so I wasn't exactly surprised by some of the things that he said throughout the conversation. I was kind of surprised by some of the things Lonerbox said, because my understanding was, and I don't know if he volunteered for this as far as like the position he took, but you either were pigeonholed to defend the moderates or you chose to defend the moderates more than the progressives, which kind of surprised me. So I got a couple of questions for you. I guess I'll start with, I tried to cohere them, that way we didn't like go off on a bunch of tangents, but when you all were talking about the MLK's letter from a Birmingham jail, I was waiting for somebody to hit you with the white moderate quote, because to me, that is the kill shot. I think that MLK...
I said it.
Right, no, I know. You did hit it. I was saying before you said it, though, I was waiting for somebody to do that. And I think it was the kill shot, to hit to your point. And I don't know if you adequately addressed that, because to me, what MLK was making abundantly clear is that the white moderate, even at the time, was a detriment to the civil rights movement. He was a lackluster ally.
Yeah.
So he was political dead weight. Do you agree with that?
Well, he was worse than, if I may very quickly,
Yeah,
just to addend to that a little bit, it was worse than dead weight. The white moderate acted as a buffer for the people who were reacting against efforts to extend civil rights. And
Exactly.
He literally said the white moderate was more of a stumbling block.
I'd like
than the
Loner.
KKK.
Let's let Loner respond. We can't all take a turn. Like, Loner,
let Loner fascist respond.
Yeah, I'll address the first point you made about me being the moderate rather than the progressive. Well, like the progressives, quote unquote, one has a USSR flag. The other two were talking about like the morality.
Let's get on with it. Oh my God, you monologue villain. Good Lord.
You're not a Stalinist. I'm with you. Neither am I.
I spoke for like.
Oh my
God.
God.
The USSR flag is a troll. I'm a Marxist.
You gotta let Loner go. Okay, Loner, please.
I mean, well, he better rip then.
I spoke for like 3 seconds.
That's all we needed.
Stop, Loner.
Yeah, the white moderate quote, like that's why I brought it up though. The problem is it depends on it depends on what you count as a moderate. The moderates that MLK was talking to was people who were hand wringing and pearl clutching over the fact that they broke a segregationist law. But within that essay,
They still exist to this day.
Martin Luther King, within that essay, constantly talks about how he himself moderated his own.
He's not making a bad point. Chill.
They moderated people when it came to violence. He said that he felt like a moderate between the black community of complacence versus the black nationalists. It just depends. Like rather than the moderate thing, to me, it doesn't really mean that much because it just depends. Like someone can tell me, like people with South Africa, right? Like Mandela was quite extreme. People will call his position moderate because he didn't want to deport all the white people. It just depends on what the position is.
I think you made a very compelling case earlier, right towards the very end, that progressivism and conservatism are relative, right? So it depends on the political context in which you exist. In a room full of communists, not only would you be moderate, you may very well be conservative, right? Because it's relative. But I guess I was hearing such a defense even before the MLK quote, like along the way when you were talking about Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, about how important moderates were. But to Monty's point, those types of moderates to which MLK was referring, people who were more concerned about civility politics and tradition for its own sake, they still exist, and they're still undermining the progressive agenda. And so you would say, I assume you would say that type of moderate in 2023, just like it was in 1957, 1966, is useless, right? And an active problem.
Yes.
I'm asking Loner.
So if you count again, if you count Sinema and Manchin as the moderates, of course I don't like them. But the problem is, you would take it up with their constituents because again, they are the only Democrats that those constituents will vote for. Every other candidate, I think, in Manchin's area would go Republican otherwise.
You're talking about people. Sorry. You're talking about people like they're stumbling blocks. Sorry.
Let Loner finish, and then Victard, you can go. I know we've unevened the panel a little bit, but that's okay. Loner, finish up, and then Victard can go.
Yeah, so if I was having this conversation with the squad or just average Democrats, I would say, yeah, of course, Manchin and Sinema are inconvenient moderates. What they stand for is not good. But then if I'm having the conversation with these guys, Biden is the annoying moderate who's hamstringing progression. But I can say, actually, by being moderate, Biden's version of that has been extending COVID provisions beyond the pandemic to give people funds or to child tax relief and all that kind of thing, or the infrastructure bill. So it just depends on where you.
Well, I hope you don't leave because I want to revisit that with you. I know Victard's going next, but I want to revisit that with you.
It's wild that a lot of the times in this conversation, people on this panel have referred to moderates as stumbling blocks or things in this very dehuman way, when in actuality they're voters, right? And to connect with voters across, they vote, right? So they aren't useless. They're very useful, and I think the job of convincing them is what you should be focusing on, rather than getting upset that somebody who doesn't pass every single ideological purity test that you have before them, they should be cast out. What's that going to do? It's just going to make them want to go to the other side. It's the same thing that happens when very progressive people go, it's not my job to educate you.
To your point.
I mean, it's not my job to educate you.
I think you made a great point.
Can I get in here for a second? Sure. If you don't mind. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to cut you off.
After Eli and Victard can respond, right? I want Sunday to go because Sunday hasn't had a chance yet.
I do want Josiah to get their point in though. I'm terribly sorry, sir. But anyways, I do want to say that for me personally, it's more along the lines of not necessarily that they're passing bad legislation, because I can acknowledge that a bad person like Joe Biden is still going to pass a couple of good things here and there, right? That's fine and that's great, but because that's why that's what I voted for him to do. He better do that shit. But for a lot of us, it's not so much the things that he's passing. In many cases, it's the things that, not even just him, but other moderates as well, it's the things that they're not passing, that people have been clamoring and begging for. And then even when, it gets brought up to where it's potentially going to get passed or what have you, it gets framed in this light to where, it's not going to get passed anyway. But then we start to question, would it, even if it wasn't, would it get passed? But yeah.
So I think, was I next, Whick?
You were.
I think what Lonerbox is actually putting his finger on, and I haven't been present for the rest of the conversation, so I might be speaking past this already being dealt with. But we're talking about moderation in two competing senses here. One is moderating the message so that it's efficacious in a political system that's not amenable to an extreme expression, and the other is moderation as a stance, wherein you are the one who is actually personally taking offense to what you are perceiving as an extreme stance. Violating social norms by going into a segregated space when you're not allowed to place.
I want to clear it up. We're talking about stances mostly here. So, for example, right, earlier on the panel, everyone here on the progressive side said it was okay, or at least morally neutral, to kill police officers.
Everyone did.
I'm curious. Right?
Like Lonerbox did? That seems like an un-Lonerbox position.
No, that's why I took the moderate side.
That's
why I joined the social.
Okay, well, how about this? You can have an extreme political stance that involves the abolition of the police as an institution, and indeed the villainization of people who become police within present society, and still nonetheless think that it's a very bad and unproductive move. First of all, just for the optics count of it, to declare open season on violence against cops, and also to advocate for it generally on a moral level. Like, these are not inconsistent with each other. Police are victims and embedded in like our capitalist institutions as everybody else is. It doesn't make sense.
Sunday, just because Whick, I think, misrepresented the
Please.
opinion. I think
Yes.
myself,
He does that. He's a
vigilante.
He's a deceitful little hobbit.
Yes. So while we do not wish to see the death of police, we are not morally objectioned to the event of a policeman being killed by someone.
Okay, sure, but hang on. Can I very quickly reply, and then I'll be quiet for a little while. So I have a.
I'm trying to respond to this, and I can't think.
All right, okay. I have a twofold response to that. The first is that, well, yes, you are absolutely not under any obligation to be morally offended at anyone's death, least of all someone who's part of an institution that indeed is persecuting and predating upon like entire categories of the population. Nonetheless, it is both deeply politically unwise to be publicly gleeful about that, since it will absolutely jade large parts of society against you when you are a minority position. And then secondly, it's probably actually not good morally to be fomenting that kind of attitude towards human beings being killed anyways. I think that leads us down a dark path where we remain as uncompassionate as that institution is itself. I don't disagree. There are a lot of bad cops that I would very much like to see meet a very unpleasant end. We've seen footage of people severely abusing their power with like horrific results. But when we're talking about how we interface with the public and how we treat these things, especially in an abstract, distanced way in public, I think the stakes and the standards are different than if, for example, we're talking about like the appropriate attitude for someone who is being actively predated upon by a cop in this moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I hate to interrupt, but I personally, the cop killing thing, just for various reasons, including TOS things, I personally don't want to hover over that too long. So I'd like to return to responding to Victard and then Lonerbox. And then if you all want to go back to that, I'll dip out and you guys can talk about the cop situation. But Victard, to your point, I'll say this. I'll make a concession here because I do think you made, at least initially, a good point. So Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, I don't like them at all, but I prefer Joe Manchin to any Republican replacement because 70 to 80% of the time he has voted with President Biden's agenda, which is relatively speaking more progressive than the alternative, and we have no chance of primarying him successfully. Kyrsten Sinema, politically, it should be open season on her in Arizona because she's in a blue purplish state. She is fair game. She should be replaced. So she has been in many situations an asset to legislation that has made a meaningful difference to Americans and especially even marginalized groups. However, let me give you an example of where she and Joe Manchin have obstructed progress in a way that I think harkens back to MLK's letter from Birmingham jail talking about the white moderate. Voting rights. So you have the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which they tried to pass back in 2021. Now, this is a very popular piece of legislation which would expand federal voting rights across the United States against conservative attempts to suppress the vote, because as conservative and Republicans say all the time, if voter turnout is maximized, they don't win elections.
Exactly.
So even though Manchin and Sinema backed the bill, they voted for it. You had to get 60 votes in order to invoke cloture and pass and get sent to the president's desk. That wasn't going to happen because no Republican, including moderate Republicans, by the way, which is something else, and all the talk about moderates, nobody here talked about the other part of the moderate wing. It's not just moderate leftists. There are also moderate conservatives, people like Nancy Mace and Don Bacon, who say they're moderate, and yet are stumbling blocks for progress along the way, too. Nobody ever addressed that. But as far as Sinema and Manchin in particular, they wouldn't vote to do a filibuster carve-out to pass voting rights. That's the kind of white moderate bullshit that MLK was talking about back in the 60s. They care more about these stupid...
We fought this before.
You and I fought about this for But I would like Lonerbox to respond to that because he was asking for examples earlier.
After Loner and Victard get a chance to respond, I will take this.
Of Sinema and Manchin frustrating progress, popular progress.
Yeah,
and to me, that's one example, and as well as Build Back Better.
Yeah, so I think it's quite fair to see like Manchin as white moderate in the same sense as the MLK thing, and by extension, I guess his constituents are as well. But whatever. But again, it's just like the frame, right? So if I posed you a different position and said, let's say hypothetically there was a decision between like where the moderate, let's say with healthcare, where the moderate position might be a public option, like a lot of Europe, and the progressive position is go with Brianna Joy Gray and force the vote for Medicare for all. Obviously, in that case, the white moderates are correct, right? Unless you're a force the vote.
Well, no, I'm not a force the vote because I don't think it was politically efficacious. But I'll flip you another one. So you talk about healthcare. I think that's a great example. Do you think, like, you look at Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act? Do you know that for like the first 5 years of like it was passed and became law in 2010, and for the first like 4 or 5 years, it was underwater in terms of its popularity, right? But now it's considered to be a very popular piece of legislation. Moderates attempted to thwart the ACA along the way. So you could see, again, I just feel like you can see examples of both in the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. And again, Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, not to keep circulating that, where they have undermined very popular progressive legislation. I was just trying to give you an example of where they've done, like, again, the social spending and Build Back Better is a great example. Wildly popular.
Okay.
They didn't back it, and then they didn't back a filibuster carve out to pass federal voting legislation. So they have been obstacles.
Yeah, but pondering, again, we remove them from the equation. What replaces them? What replaces them also wouldn't get you it, what's the fucking point?
I said at the very beginning when I made my concession to Victor, and I've told you that if the alternative is a Republican replacement, I'll take Sinema and Manchin over a Republican any damn day of the week. So, I'm not disputing that. I'm saying it would be better.
They're marginally better, but like, is it even like, worth it at that point?
Absolutely.
They're very almost indistinguishable.
Not with Sinema. Not with Sinema because she's primary. She is so vulnerable. Joe Manchin, absolutely. My goal, what I would love, is to have an Obama-era 60-person Senate surplus, and then we keep Manchin and Sinema in the Senate and just ignore them. Just completely ignore them. They get nothing, no concessions. They're basically the losers in high school, have to sit by themselves while Democrats pass whatever they want and they can't do shit about it. But if I have a choice between Manchin and a Republican, I'll take Manchin any damn day of the week. He votes for Biden's progressive judicial nominees. He voted for Ketanji Brown Jackson, bipartisan infrastructure bill.
I want to pass it to Loner and Victor to respond to you. Go ahead, Loner, and then Victor.
No, yeah, that's what I was like. My position was basically that you kind of what I said right at the beginning is just depending on which issue you're framing, then there are definitely situations where whoever has the moderate position is going to be completely in the wrong, and other times when whoever's taken what's called the progressive position would be in the wrong as well. So, yeah, no, that's like a good example as well with the Manchin thing. It's a shame no one else on the panel did it, but okay.
I think for me, you're talking about like you're acknowledging that if we didn't have this person, it would be substantially worse because a Republican would probably get elected in West Virginia, right? But like that's not a reflection of it's a reflection of the politician, but it's also a reflection of the constituents in West Virginia. And it just like I think that going to West Virginia, if you're a progressive and you want substantive change, you would talk to the people of West Virginia and try and convince them on like an individual basis rather than complaining that their views don't align with yours, because they just don't.
Do you think? Well, let me ask you, Victor, if I may. Do you think that Joe Manchin's going to win his next election?
I don't know.
I doubt it. Right. So he's not polling very well. He has a radical conservative alternative who will primary him or who will run against him as a Republican. And here's my question: if part of the duty of a representative is to reflect the views of their constituents, but also there's a delegate portion as well, where they're also supposed to serve the country, not just their state, right? Because you have state representatives for a reason, like state legislatures that are supposed to be concerned for the state. Manchin is a state's representative to the federal government and supposed to consider federal legislation as well, not just within the context of just what West Virginians want.
You're misconstruing this. Their responsibility is to represent their state's interest within the federal government and the state's interest as reflected by their constituency, right? That is what the framing.
I just have a question.
Well, you said it right there. State's interests. The state's interests
as reflected
are probably
by their constituency.
Right.
if that's the case, then he shouldn't have backed anything that Biden proposed.
Well,
because
maybe
Biden,
is that why he's not going to be elected next time? Maybe.
Correct.
Oh.
Correct, because he's seen as too chummy with the president. So if that's
so you should have been more moderate then.
If it, by your definition, yes. If the goal is simply to regurgitate the views of his particular state, then yes. But I also think that a federal representative, like a senator, has an obligation to consider the rest of the country as well, and to consider the interests of his citizens outside of what they want. West Virginia is a poor, uneducated, unhealthy state relative to the rest of the country, led by Republicans.
Let's dig in on this. Let's dig in on
Republican policies don't get red states anywhere. Period.
Represent the interests of their constituencies, regardless of what they want. Do you think that a sitting representative should override the will of the people in order to get what they want or think is best for their people?
I think.
Do you think that's a good thing?
Well, sure. It depends on what the situation is. So, like, there was a time, for example, when slavery was wildly popular, or more popular than what it was. But I don't think that a representative had an obligation to enforce slavery simply because his constituents wanted it.
I think what's being sort of loaded onto this, though, is the idea that anything that a constituent does against the will of the people is therefore being done for private, bad, and noble motives, opposed to noble ones.
It is anti-democratic on its face, right? And we could say that, like, okay, sure, there are certain signs like slavery.
Well, sure, but I mean, like, a democratic society can democratically decide to do something abhorrent, yes? Like, that's not beyond the pale.
I was just making sure that.
Yeah, the greatest president in the history of the United States, according to most polls, is President Lincoln, and he was a tyrant, but considered to the conservatives at the time.
Let's get it away from the
democracy was instituted by a tyrant.
Let's go into the more moderate type of styles of things. Obviously, slavery, but when it comes to things like healthcare, if most of your constituency says, actually, no, we don't want this new healthcare. We don't think it's going to be good for us. We don't think it's not something we want you to do. We want to keep this old system. Do you think that you have a moral, right, like a ability to override their will and force it upon them, regardless of what they want?
Sure.
Do I think that a representative should vote for it, even if the constituency doesn't like it? Yeah.
Using the state to apply coercive force, yes.
Sure.
Okay. I just fundamentally disagree.
Little Rock 9, baby. We don't have to go to slavery. I can go to desegregation. Little Rock 9.
Yeah,
President Eisenhower.
I'm going to healthcare.
I understand that. I understand, but what I'm saying, you and I get into this every time. All I have to do is show.
What's the lowest line that you're okay with?
All I have to do is show that you have a line.
The will of the people.
Wick, you have a line. We've been through this. You can pretend that you're an absolutist when it comes to institutions. You're not. You have a line.
That's up in slavery and desegregation.
Right. There's a time when you say fuck the will of the people. Right. It depends. It's a case-by-case basis.
Desegregation's probably my minimum. What's yours?
That I would enforce an unpopular. You'd have to give me an example, like healthcare, universal healthcare.
Wait,
that would not be my threshold.
I would also say it really just depends upon like the thing and whether or not it's like better for the people. Like, because also American people right now are very stupid. Like a lot of people, actually, you know, I don't know if I want to use the word stupid. Maybe I want to use the word uneducated or misinformed or uninformed is a better
or
word.
Deceived. They are heavily
deceived. Yes, they are heavily deceived. Yeah, apathetic and heavily deceived by the Decepticons. It's a tragic. You hate to see it, but you know, that doesn't necessarily mean that we need to sit here and like wait for every person who, you know, has had like, actually no, I'm not going to say that part. We just
a majority.
Right. Well, not majority.
No,
Hold
majority, a voting majority. Yeah.
That's not where I was going. I'm sorry.
I apologize. Please.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I just don't necessarily think that we have time in some cases with some of these things to educate every single person when it's like, okay, when a good handful of people are just anti-facts, like anti listening to, you know, empiricism, science, all that type of shit. And it's like, oh, well, you could just form a better argument for them. And it's like, can we? No, I don't think so. Like, a lot of people want to say that there's like that golden argument, or a golden argument for every situation is going to win over the hearts of everyone. We just haven't found it yet. And I don't necessarily think that that's the truth. Or if it is the truth, we just don't have the kind of time to like wait around until we find that argument.
Didn't you come into this panel saying that California made up like half of the American population?
What is your point?
You're talking about people being too uneducated to make their own decisions. Like, you also tried to make the point about how most of the Americans really want like Medicare for all, even though public option is way popular.
I made a sweeping generalization. I didn't just say California. Okay. I named other states as well.
I think you just
maybe if you like actually listen to, you know what? Never mind. It's not worth it.
Okay. Actually, as I recall, it was Somso who came in saying that California, New York, Texas, and New Jersey.
It's not even worth it. It's not even worth it. If they want to hear certain things, they want to hear certain things.
I have a question.
So where do you draw that line then? If you're talking about using like anti-democratic actions to push forward a policy you like you have constitutional stuff for that already, and you have like executive orders are very limited. But as soon as you get rid of that and just say like we're going to do it for healthcare, even though like instead of just going for like a public option maybe.
I think speaking in universals about this, I think speaking in universals about this is misguided either way. The state itself is not democratically instituted. There's no moral imperative to abide by democratic institutions in all cases. You have to judge on a case by case basis. Does this person is this person making a judgment call from their democratically granted status, by the way, to interfere with things for the better in their best judgment with the humble information of like scientists and people who have taken pains to know about things, or are they doing so for private interests or out of like ideological bias, something like that? Well, I don't think saying like in any given case must they dogmatically be.
Let's assume it's not like a private interest, like someone like the corporations are funding them money, or it's not self-interest, but they really truly believe in their heart of hearts that the Voting Act was probably going to do more harm than good. And even though their constituency wanted it overwhelmingly,
no, I get you, Whick.
To override the will of their constituency.
I understand you, Whick. So it changes what they're blameworthy for. So if the move is successful and it's positive, then you've determined by that at the very least they had a good idea. You can examine further whether they had the good idea for the right reasons, whether they actually like deployed the right levels of judgment, deferred to the right authorities, etc., and so forth. Or alternatively, if it has a bad effect, maybe they were lucky, or maybe they're blameworthy for being arrogant in how they came to the position that they had. Like it's a bit more complex than just like universally they must defer to the will of the people or not in every single case. That's silly.
Yeah. So if I may,
it's it's also about setting precedent, right? If a president takes some sweeping action and uses like some kind of executive action to push forward a policy, say like Medicare for all, but then you're also saying a president that other presidents can come in and do anti-democratic things as well. This is actually a story of how democracies collapse. Is it like one of?
It's also a story of how democracies are formed.
This is why we make sure we have a solid constitution.
Loner, go ahead.
Yeah, but the constitution thing goes against your argument that means presidents can't do things like just throw in Medicare for all, even though it doesn't go through the
presidents can. That's actually the function of a president, to be clear. But moreover, you're correct. Like it's a dangerous precedent, but that's the case. Like with the institution of any political constitution.
Thank you.
Go on. You can.
No.
I've been talking for 3 hours before this.
No.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, like, I think you were spitting there because the reality is the idea. Again, and I say this with respect, Loner Box, because I'm a big fan of yours. But the implication in your question is that you can bad faith proof a system. You absolutely can't do that. The idea that any action that you can take any sort of action within a democratic republic and it doesn't create some sort of precedent. Look right now at what the Republican Party is doing in the contemporary United States. We see them establish dangerous precedents all the time, or act dangerously without precedents having been established by Democrats. And the idea that, well, if Democrats or if progressives
but when you do that yourself and you make it impossible to tell the difference between what you're doing and what the other side is doing, you lose a lot of moral high ground. You can say, "Oh, that's bullshit. Like it doesn't matter." It absolutely matters.
Wait a minute. Is the only way you can evaluate?
It's like a race to the bottom where we're like, we gotta save democracy by fucking over democracy first.
Is the only way you evaluate
before they do? Right?
I mean, democracy is a flawed system. We have to understand, like, democracy in and of itself has its flaws.
We got, gang.
Right now,
what are we talking about though? I thought we were, because Quinn, more specifically, I thought we were just on the topic of like Biden by decree giving fucking Medicare for all. Are we off that now, or what are we talking about?
Well, no, I thought he was talking about like an elected representative like Manchin, a senator voting in contradiction to what his constituents want.
Or in that,
which he does though, right? But then what happens after that is he does that and then he loses.
Whick, I'm gonna duck out. The pollen's eating me alive. Josiah, we should talk sometime.
Absolutely, buddy. Thank you, Mr. President.
I am also gonna go ahead and dip out of here. Thank you for having me on. It was a fun
I'm glad
fun
you guys
experience. Fun experience, fun conversation.
It's nice.
Have a good night, everybody. Ciao, ciao.